Hey, what's up, everybody? What the fuck is going on? Welcome to BMOVIEMIKE and RAMBORAPH'S What the Fuck Live. How's it going? Huh? Uh, we didn't advertise this because we've been having a hell of a time getting it going, but we got it going, so let's have some fun. How you been, Rambo? What you been up to?
Doing good. Um, haven't been up to much. It's raining like hell outside for some reason. And
Yeah, we got that shit yesterday, man. It was like part of the California thing came this way, and it rained from about 9 a.m. till 3 in the morning. It was a really great day off, you know. I had some things planned, and, well, that didn't go through. Oh well, such is life.
have you seen anything lately?
Oh,
Have you been in
shit.
all time?
Well, I was pretty traumatized by schlepping through the Star Wars prequels recently. God, and so yeah, my mind is kind of a blank. I don't think I've really had a chance to watch much, although it feels like I have. But that's a warning to people. This show is going to be like random. There's not a lot of structure. We're just going to talk about a bunch of shit, whatever's on our mind. We do have a specific topic for tonight's show. We'll get to that, and we'll probably have some more shows with other topics, but there'll be a lot of randomness going on. The Star Wars prequels. Oh, God help us. Did not age well, and they weren't great to start with. But we'll get to that. It's part of our topic. Uh, I've been wanting to check out the rest of the Santa Clarita diet because Jay the Stingray, our sausage factory brother, has told me that it gets better. It's pretty decent, but man, trying to
All
get
right.
past that first episode, it gives me like no reason to even want to check out the rest of them. I guess the tone of it. I mean, I understand it's supposed to be like a horror comedy, but
Yeah,
I think the comedy is I think it's really better if it comes from the observation of the outside characters.
yeah.
But when Drew Barrymore's playing a zombie wife, but she's basically yucking it up and then like wink, wink, nudge, nudge type thing. It just I don't know. It didn't appeal to me, but I'll eventually give it a shot. After all, I did watch The Phantom Menace again, so how bad can it be? How about you? You watch anything good?
Um, other than my window now, because it's almost sounds like it's fucking hailing and raining stones. See. I saw three movies recently: Sausage Party, Spectral, and The Martian.
No, the only one I've seen of those three is The Sausage Party. I haven't watched your review of it yet. I know you posted it. Uh, I didn't like it.
No, me neither. I mean, there was one joke I laughed. I was disappointed in it. I thought it'd be better based on the reviews, and an R-rated animated comedy is rare. It's not a dime a I mean, it's the last one. I can't remember what the last one was. And there was one joke I laughed. It was the Meatloaf when that song popped up.
I mean,
Because
there were a couple times when I did laugh. I can't say that I didn't, but it from the I don't know. It's one of those things where the preview was so much better than what you actually got. It made it look a lot funnier. There was the scene, where the toilet paper comes out of the bathroom. I thought that was pretty funny, and I don't know. There were a couple other scenes that I laughed out loud, but for the most part, it was just groan worthy. And the ending, I thought was just you know anarchy for the sake of anarchy. I don't think it really. I mean, a food orgy or whatever. I don't know. It fell apart, and what could have been a really funny food versus humans, us learning to live together in a new way, or something kind of comedy. But I don't know. I didn't like it.
no, I mean, me neither. It's not like the voice acting wasn't the problem. The animation wasn't the problem. It's just I look at a comedy and I look at how many times I laughed. I laughed one time, and I'm like, I considering all the positive buzz and all the good word of mouth, I was disappointed. And then it's sad because again, I'm like, okay, an R-rated animated movie. I like that gimmick, but it's again with a comedy. There's other films with those guys I've enjoyed more, whether it be Seth Rogen or Danny McBride or so forth. There's other films they've done I've enjoyed more.
Yeah, I didn't think it was executed very well. I didn't like the story. I didn't like the fact that the main character, the female character, uh, I don't know, she was kind of, I don't know, moral, and that seemed to be a problem. I mean, I mean, I'm not talking about like overtly moral. I'm just talking about like basically moral.
Right.
And man, and that seemed to be like she was the subject of ridicule. And I don't know. I mean, it doesn't bother me either way. However you do it, that's your thing. It's your gig. I don't really care. But I don't. For a group that like doesn't like to be slammed in certain ways, to see them slam other people, it just seems hypocritical to me. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was a waste. But animation was good. The voices were good. There were a few laughs in it, but eh.
Also, a lot of the jokes were just so obvious. I saw them coming a mile away. Like, what was it when they have the song and they go, you have the Nazi one that says "kill all the juice," and then they cut to a juice. I was like, oh yeah, I did it. Just juice, juice. I did. It's like I did it. I'm not laughing. It's not that I'm offended. It's just I did it. It's shocking. Oh, it's I don't know. Maybe I'm just a killjoy. It's like I did it. I just didn't laugh.
Lowest common denominator humor. I mean, like you said, it was just simpleton shit. Uh, Now I don't know. I don't really want to get a whole lot of political on this show right now, but uh,
It's
the
your
whole
show.
part with the West Bank, when they had the food representing the Arabs and then the food representing the Israelis, uh, and the whole it boiled down to the whole reason why they didn't get along is because they were gay for each other but afraid to admit it.
Oh, you mean Kareem Abdul and Woody Allen wanted to?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
sat on opposite
Edward
shelves looking longingly at each other. I just thought, really, that's what you went with.
Edward Norton as Sammy Badel Jr. I mean, that's. I mean,
That's funnier than the movie. The way you just said it.
that's how it
So-
is in the movie, but it's just. And I'm fine with dumb comedy. I mean, hell, not a lot of people like this one, but I thought it was underrated. Called Your Highness. I don't know if you ever saw it. Did you ever see that one?
Your Highness. Yeah, that had Danny McBride and
James
oh,
Franco.
James Franco and Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
When she was in that, I didn't hate it. It wasn't great. I mean, I mean, year one with Jack Black was, you know, I don't know, movies you can pass on. But Your Highness, I don't know. What'd you think of it? It had its moments, but
I see. Like that's one I thoroughly enjoyed because I thought it was pretty funny. I liked the practical effects, and I liked that even in the making of the film, they were inspired by films like The Sword and the Sorcerer, and but you do a comedy version of that. And see, that was like dumb humor or sophomore humor, but it actually made me laugh. I thought Danny McBride was a pretty funny lead, like or when he cut off the thing he's wearing is like, you must touch it, you know, come on, touch it. You know, what was I forget the Minotaur's dick, and he put it around his neck. He's like, no, you will hold on to my dick. Like it's dumb humor, but I don't know. I just found it funnier. I guess it's just
oh, it was definitely better than the Sausage Party.
I don't know. Maybe it's just delivery of certain actors' lines. Maybe it's just like it's like Sausage Party was the whole idea of it's animated. That's why it's funny because it's animated and it's food. I don't know.
I don't know.
That
McBride
wasn't
kind
enough
of
for me.
to me, it kind of reminds me of like a redneck Bill Murray. But he's really hilarious. So I really enjoy. But that makes me question his involvement in the new Halloween film. Because first thing I remember seeing him in was like Tropic Thunder when he was the special effects guy blowing up the forest.
Yeah.
That was hilarious, man. He's writing the new Halloween.
And directed by the guy who did Pineapple Express.
Yeah, which is a movie I didn't like. I didn't really care for Pineapple Express. I mean, I did like Your Highness, but I don't know. Seth Rogen and Franco, maybe it's Franco. Rogen's okay sometimes, but I don't know. I didn't like I the interview.
I
uh,
didn't see that one.
yeah, that's where they went to Korea.
Yeah, the whole
Uh,
controversy. Yeah.
I think, I mean, banning it because it's politically sensitive is stupid. If you want to ban it because it's horrible, that's something I can agree with.
So you weren't a fan of the movie?
No, not really. Again, it had its moments like the Sausage Party, but not very many. It was
Oh, okay.
Franco though. He was horrible in that one. He was really annoying. The hate is because the anus. The hate is because the anus. Hey, he was horrible. Although there were a couple of funny scenes in it. They did some interviews on his fake TV show. I think it was Eminem came out as gay or something. I know, there was some shit on there that was pretty crazy. Uh,
Okay.
but I am looking forward to a couple of movies coming out. Logan and King Kong. We were talking about that last night. Those look pretty good. I hope they don't suck. I definitely hope this year's movies are better than last year's.
Right.
Like when we discovered when we did our favorite movie year on the factory last show. You look back, it's like the farther you look back, I don't know, the years are more densely packed with good movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, you hit that sweet spot, and it's holy shit, there's like 40 movies that I like released that year. I'm looking, in the 2000s and the late 2000s where we're at now, and a handful, dozen maybe. The rest of them don't even sound interesting. It's like, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's even more sad because they're making more movies nowadays with how you have direct to video, VOD, Netflix. Well, back in the day, you just had a certain amount for theaters, even before video. And so there's more movies being made, but it seems like it's less good ones.
Yep, that is true. And I saw a list of Netflix. Speaking of Netflix, their new list coming up. Um, what's leaving is better than what's coming. That's never fun. Leaving Jaws, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, all the Jaws movies. Animal House is leaving. Bill and Ted's leaving. I don't know. There's a lot of good ones leaving, and then I'm looking at the ones coming in, and I see Blazing Saddles. And I go farther down the list. Friday After Next. They do have the Jurassic Park films coming up. Kung Fu Panda. Memento. I'd be interested. I've never seen it. I might check that out. Nacho Libre. It's okay. This is Spinal Tap. And then that's pretty much it. The Water Boy. I mean, when those are highlights of the releases, come on, Netflix. I mean, Angry Birds Season 2? Really?
That's a TV show?
I guess. Maybe it's a
I didn't know
Netflix
there was
show.
a TV show.
I
Angry
don't know what the
Birds.
hell it is. Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny. I will definitely check that one out. That's a classic. But not a whole hell of a lot going on there in the Netflix world. Let's see. I think we have a guest that's trying to join us, and I'm trying to help them out with it. Yeah, Jay the Stingray might be popping in for a visit on the show. That would be great. Good to see him again. But I guess we can go ahead and just dive into what we're here for. The
All right.
WTF in this show stands for what the fuck were they thinking when they made the new Star Wars movies? Because I don't know, where do you want to start? I've been, like I said, pushing myself to go. I had to stop. I can't get past Attack of the Clones. Those movies are, as much as James Franco gets on my nerves, but Hayden Christensen or whatever, oh God, he almost, I don't know. You blame Lucas, blame whoever, but his character in that, it almost ruins the movies. Attack of the Clones is horrible because God, the way the dialogue, the way, I don't know. But Rogue One takes place between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Right.
A little background on Star Wars with me. I don't know if anybody that's watched the Sausage Factory and our Star Wars shows. You probably know that I was 8.5 in 1977 when I saw the original in theater, and of course fell in love with it. So I may be biased toward the original trilogy. I'll accept that. If you want to say that I'm unfairly biased, that's fine. Fan is short for fanatic, and when it comes to the first two films, I am definitely that. Jedi little less so because of the teddy bear thing, but and the fact that I was 15. So maybe if I had been 8 and Jedi was the first thing I saw, maybe that would be my favorite. I mean, it's all you know, all when you see it, what developmental stage you're in when you see this stuff. But I couldn't help but notice in Rogue One, since I am a fan of these films, and I don't have everything memorized. I don't have that kind of brain. But, I remember certain things, and when I see something that reminds me of something and it doesn't seem right, it bothers me. Like, let's just go ahead and start with Rogue One because of where it's at in the timeline.
Yeah.
I noticed in Attack of the Clones, Count Dooku had the plans for the Death Star that were either developed by or being guarded by some kind of insect-like creatures in a cave.
Okay, I
I
do
didn't remember
remember
that
that.
until I went back and watched it. Now, given the timeline, Rogue One takes place, approximately, if it's a couple days before A New Hope, then it's going to be about 16, 17 years from Revenge of the Sith, which would probably put it,
Yeah,
I don't
because
know,
Leia's born at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and Luke and Leia are born, so it's got to be.
and they're like,
eh,
I don't know, 17, 18 maybe in A New Hope, because it seems like they're about that age, about,
Yeah,
on
at
the
least.
on the cusp of adulthood anyway. So yeah, it's a good 18 years. And the prequels mess up the timeline too, so I'm not like necessarily disqualifying that part
Yeah.
because Hayden Christensen's portrayal of Darth Vader in Sith is horrible, but it doesn't really fit in either.
No.
But how long have these plans been around? And I guess it's possible that the events of Rogue One, how did it would be impossible. How did Galen, whatever his name is, I mean, the whole character I guess is my problem. Because we could just call it Rogue One, a biography of an exhaust port. I guess maybe what really bothers me about Rogue One is it kind of Rob Zombie Halloween's Star Wars in a way. It kind of goes back and makes up some new shit that doesn't really, with me, gel with the previous and the first and previous, Seth and New Hope. It doesn't really fit. The puzzle piece doesn't fit well. His character is unnecessary. His story and what he does takes away from A New Hope. And you've seen both. What did you think?
Uh, yeah. I mean, first of all, I just think Road One is even if you take all that out, which we'll get to, it's just a shitty, boring movie. But even after that, you mentioned Rob Zombie's Halloween. The movie I think of is the Thing prequel, where we gotta know what happened to the Norwegians, and I'm like, no, we don't. We already know from the events in John Carpenter's film. I don't need to see how did this axe get in the wall? How did this and that? I mean, it my mind can think better than you in your shitty movie, your shitty prequel. I don't need a reason for 2 hour movie of how is this exhaust port there. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care. And I'm like, well, if this exhaust port's made this way by this guy, that means he's thinking, well, anyone can hit it. He's not literally thinking, I made this so hopefully a Jedi who is using the Force will hit the spot. No, I mean, it's the
Yeah,
point
because
was
even at
that
that
it took a
time,
guy who was a Jedi and knew the Force to hit the spot, but they made it sound like anyone can do it.
because that was a time when Obi-Wan and Yoda were in hiding still, and they thought that the Jedi were extinct. So there's
Yeah,
no way he could have made this, specifically for a Jedi skill. So yeah, that really bothered me. I was like, so you mean to tell me that flaw was built into the Death Star by a disgruntled employee because he was mad about being forced to, and of course his wife gets killed. But that whole scene there, I thought borrowed from *Inglourious Bastards*, where the Nazi officer goes to the French farm looking for
Exactly.
Jews. You know, but instead he kills his wife and takes him. And you know, it totally. I'm thinking when I'm watching this, I'm like, wait a minute. So the whole scene in the climax of A New Hope, when Luke can't use his targeting computer, cannot lock on to this exhaust port, and Obi-Wan says, use the Force, Luke. So he turns off his targeting computer, and then headquarters is like, what are you doing? Turn it back on. And then he uses the Force and makes the shot because he's the only one that can do it, because everybody else is, a lot of other people have tried and they can't hit it. Yeah, and then this story kind of takes away from that. So Luke didn't need the Force. The Jedi weren't necessary, and anybody could have done it. That to me is an insult to the film that follows. That's an insult to A New Hope. And that's not the first time and not the last time this movie insulted my intelligence. But that was it starts out right there. So it started out bad for me. I was just like, holy shit. And then another thing that I felt missing from the beginning, the crawl. To me, it's important. If it's a Star Wars movie, it's been established, there's a crawl. And since this movie, the plot of this movie is basically summed up in the crawl of the first film, and maybe that's why they had to expand upon it, because it's like, well, that's not a movie, that's a page. So they had to come up with a bunch of stupid shit, which is obviously stupid. And the music. Where's John Williams? Again, I think he's synonymous with Star Wars as much as he is Jaws or anything else he's done. It's a big, important movie. It costs a lot of money. You would think that they would at least want some original people involved, including the music. The score to me was, after you read about what happened with the score, because this movie suffered the same fate as Suicide Squad, where they finished it and then decided, we're going to junk the third act and redo it, which is why a lot of the footage in the trailers is not in the movie, because they cut all that crap out and re-edited it. And the guy that they paid $5 million to reshoot and re-edit hired his brother to edit the film. And because of that, they wrecked the timing of the original score, so they had to go out and find a guy to write a whole new score in 1 month.
Oh, okay.
So, and people wonder why I don't like this film. To me, that was visible. I mean, I was watching this film, watching how clumsy it was. The characters are uninteresting. The situations they get themselves into are unnecessary. When they first meet Forrest Whitaker's character, I'm like, who is this guy and why should I give a shit about him? And then he's got that breathing mask like he's Dennis Hopper from Blue Velvet, right?
Yep.
So, and he's got this one scene where he pulls it really dramatically and there's like a sting, a music sting. It's like, ding, 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 and like he's going to say something really important, but it's like, it doesn't go anywhere. And I was sitting thinking, what in the fuck was the point of that? I mean, I know it's little, but I paid money to sit in the seat and I'm a fan, so I get to say this shit.
Yeah.
But, God, it was, God, that character, I hated it. I thought that was stupid. How come only now we find out? It's like, oh, you're rewriting history, because now the Death Star can shoot pinpoint. Before it was a planet destroyer, which was never mentioned that it had any capability other than full power. It destroyed planets. That's what it did. In this movie, it's like, oh, we can do, just target the city. We're not trying to write We're not trying to write a manifesto here. Just send a message. Okay, well, if that was possible, then why, a few days later, did Grand Moff Tarkin himself order the destruction of Alderaan when he was trying to make a point to Princess Leia? Because after all, he's not trying to write a manifesto. He's just trying to prove a point. So he could have pinpointedly destroyed her hometown without destroying the planet. I
guess that was maybe that people would argue maybe that was the point he wanted. Look what I can do to an entire planet.
You could argue that, but I think we know for real that that's bullshit, because this was revisionist history.
I'm just thinking what other people might say. So.
They decided, hey, you know what would be cool? It would be cool if you could pinpoint the laser on the Death Star, and it could only take out one location. That would serve our script. Although, it was never ever mentioned in the previous trilogy. The original trilogy. So that's like a new development that kind of comes in late in the game. That bothers me when they do stuff like that. It also bothered me. I thought, well, for the most part, Grand Moff Tarkin looked okay. I wish they would have kept him more in shadow and maybe more silhouette. But when he turns around and you get the full on, Xbox 360 glory of his face, it's just like, whoa. Am I playing Mass Effect here? What's going on? That bothered me.
Right.
And at the end, well, we'll get to the end, but then the portrayal of Darth Vader was another weakness for me. We see him, he's introduced in A New Hope, first time I've ever seen Darth Vader, so it made a big impression on me as a kid, right? The doors open, and then the stormtroopers come in and kill all the rebel fighters, and then Darth Vader walks in. He's a Lord Vader. He's like the right-hand man of the Emperor. He's not a trench fighter anymore. He's the big baddie. So he's not going to go running in there on his own, and well, that was established in the first film that he didn't do that anyway. Well, then, referencing a scene, of course, in this film, when he goes absolutely apeshit on a bunch of people, just minutes before or hours before he makes that entrance, and the two didn't match up to me. Some people, I've talked about this on The Factory, some of the guys didn't think that was as much of a big deal as I did.
Right.
But, we're seeing him do things we've never seen him before. Yeah, I know why. It's because they know people want to see that. But unfortunately, it's never been established. So that's fan service in a way. And to me, it doesn't fit the story. It doesn't fit the tone of the original film. It kind of messes with the tone of A New Hope to me.
Well, I mean, sorry to interject.
Oh, go for it.
No, I was just saying, okay, say if they want to do that, and they're saying we're doing this for the fans, right? Fan service, supposedly.
Supposedly.
Then why do you spend all this money on a CGI Peter Cushing when it's not his voice, it's not him? It is. I thought it looked horrible. On the flip side, James Earl Jones is still alive. You use his voice. You can have a guy in a suit be Darth Vader, but he's only in it for a minute. So, like, the guy who's passed away, the guy who is no longer with us, the guy you have to use millions of dollars to CGI his face, to have a different person have his voice, and yet he has more screen time, and people care about him less than the guy people do want to see more, and the guy is still alive, and you can do it, just have anyone put in the suit.
Yeah.
But he's only in it for a minute.
And I think if they really wanted to do fan service, they would take it an extra step. They got Peter Mayhew. He's like 74 years old. He came back to play Chewbacca in The Force Awakens. He did a great job.
Right.
Well, they've never brought back David Prowse.
Right.
He's still alive. I'm sure he would. Love to do it. I mean, he goes around to conventions all the time,
but
why not?
That's when I don't get when people are like, oh, it's fan service. If they wanted to go that route, then even if it's not some, I know there's a lot of people who would rather see more of Vader than more of a CGI Tarkin that's not Peter Cushing because he's dead for decades. So you just have more screen time of this bad CGI out of fucking Tron Legacy, or you have anyone in the fucking suit and people want to see Vader more, and James Earl Jones is still alive.
Yeah.
But you only have a minute of him. How is that logical? People want to see more Vader, but let's not give that to them. He's only a minute. Let's give more of this guy who's no longer with us, and we spend millions of dollars on CGI that looks like shit. That's part of the logic I don't get when people want to say that. That's not the reason. That's one of the reasons I think the movie's stupid. But it's one summation of just, to me, how pointless and stupid this movie is.
That's exactly when somebody asked me when I first saw it. Somebody on Facebook asked me. My review was insultingly stupid and completely unnecessary. That's all I was thinking about while I was watching it. Now, does it have good special effects? Yeah, it has good special effects. It does look good in some areas. Now, the CGI characters, some of them, Tarkin and Leia, Especially at the end, I was really taken aback by how clumsy the Princess Leia was at the end when she turns around to run away. I was like, whoa! I mean, that looked horrible. But the other characters, they looked pretty good. But when your favorite character in the film is the comic relief robot, I mean, I wish he would have been, he's what Jar Jar Binks should have been, basically. He was, the distraction from how terrible the film is rather than making it worse. I thought he was a great character, but the leads around him, I don't know, Cassian or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Wannabe, Inigo Montoya wannabe.
For a badass spy, warrior, he was a real wimp. He was a crybaby, because some people are like, well, I like how it shows the realism in war and how sometimes good guys do bad things. Well, the rule is all is fair in love and war, right? Because you're trying to win the fucking thing.
Yeah.
There's no pussyfooting around. You have to be able to make the tough call. If you don't have the guts for it, then don't do it. And he's going to sit around and whine about it. That's why a lot of guys that come back from Vietnam, they don't talk about what happened over there. A lot of guys that have been in war, they won't talk about what happened. Because you have to do shit you don't think you're capable of. But you don't know if you're capable of it until you do it, and you have to do it sometimes to save your life and to save others. So I didn't really think, I thought that was a given. Again, unnecessary. I thought people would understand by now with how many wars have been fought over the centuries that war is hell. Now, I don't know if you heard stories about our Civil War here in the United States. They thought it was fun and games, and they brought out picnic tables and shit, and they were having picnics on the lawn to watch the fight. And then when the carnage started happening, they ran for their lives. It's like they didn't understand what was going to happen.
Right.
And so how could we still be that way? I don't think by now that we would catch on that war is hell, and you have to do, if it's for the greater good, sometimes you have to do things you wouldn't normally do.
But this is even war as hell. This is war as heck. This is, I mean, there are many movies we've seen that war as hell. I mean, I can name from Hammer to Hill, the fucking Full Metal Jacket, to the original Red Dawn. I mean, good ensembles, war is hell, and this, I got a fucking sister of Rooney Mara from the Elm Street remake, who's about as wooden as a fucking table, and I got wannabe Inigo Montoya, thinking any second now he's gonna be Darth Vader, prepare to die, you kill my father. You got fucking Forrest Whitaker doing his impression of Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet and failing with that weird, he has a northern voice. Donnie Yen completely wasted, and his buddy even less in the film. A pilot that was there to be tortured and then later on to die. That's really all he was in the film. This cast sucks. This ensemble characters suck.
Well, they could have made him cool, like the Donnie character you're talking about, the blind monk.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that maybe, because like all the Jedis are supposed to be dead, but we know from watching the movies they're not really. There's still a few around. Like if he would have been an older Jedi that was actually injured in the Clone Wars or something and lost his vision, but he was hiding out as to not draw attention to himself. But then when the war comes to his doorstep, then he reveals himself to be a Jedi. I was kind of, be kind of a blind fury type thing was what I was kind of expecting from him. That would have been cool. And then I don't know. I still want, still a good character. Maybe next to the robot, one of my, second favorite.
Yeah.
His backup was completely unnecessary. I didn't, if he's one with the Force and the Force is one with him, then why the fuck does he need the gorilla with the shotgun?
Yeah.
He can go out and flip that switch, but he can't make it back without his buddy, and then his buddy probably ends up, I don't know. It was pretty horrible.
And it seemed like they brought up stuff that they went nowhere with. For example, she has that thing around her neck, that necklace, that you find out is one of the things that can power a lightsaber. All you get is Donnie Yen mentions it once and it's never brought up again. And I'm like, why are you putting the significance again on this? Was it part of the stuff that was cut out at the end? Was it going to be like one of those, maybe she'll go to the dark side? Or it was almost as if they were trying to assume that maybe she'll know a Jedi or be a Sith, or I don't know, like there's some underbelly thing, and nothing happened. It was just she died, and I didn't care. It was. I'm like, is this part of the reshoots? Does the entire ending or whatever had to be reshot or whatever? And
Yeah, that probably is symptoms of the butchering that occurred, because the movie we got wasn't necessarily the movie that was shot originally. It'd be interesting to talk to the director to see exactly how they fucked his movie over. 'Cause I'm not saying that his version would have been any better, but the version they released was worse than Suicide Squad. I was not impressed with that movie either, but it was at
no,
least a little more entertaining than this film.
yeah, but we're in the minority. Most people loved Rogue One, so I think he'd be proud of it. But you were talking about the music. I mean, I know these are nitpicks, but they do bother me. And fuck it, if I don't like the film, then the nitpicks are gonna bother me too. When you talk about the music, sorry, and they set up that opening where the mom dies and the kid's hiding, and Forrest Whitaker finds her, and then it cuts to like the title, and like it's very, downbeat opening, sad. And then right when they got to the title, it's just like, dun, 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 dun. I'm like, this optimistic music, like, we're going on an adventure. Dun, 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 dun. I'm like, that's a real shift in mood that no one noticed. Like, this person's mom just died and she's now by herself, and this guy, Forrest Whitaker, could fucking eat her in 5 seconds. We don't know who he is. Title. Dun, 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 dun. I'm like, and yeah, what? Yeah, it's just little stuff like that that bothers me. Like, why? I didn't know they sold fucking Stormtrooper toys. Why does she have a Stormtrooper doll? I didn't know they made. I know someone mentioned, oh, it's part of their propaganda. I never knew that.
I kind of took it as a nod to Spaceballs.
I guess, but I'm like, but they're against the Empire now. They don't like them. Would they let her still keep a Stormtrooper doll? That'd be like, hey, you keep that Nazi doll there. I mean, I know
I guess you could say
we hate
it
them,
would
but
it would be like, part of the winning of hearts and minds type thing.
I know,
But
but
it's not really explained, and if you have to think about it too much like that to come up with an excuse, then it's probably stupid.
by then they're so against them that they don't even want them near there. So obviously they have problems with them, and they want to be against them. They'd be like, "Hey, you keep your Charlie Manson doll or your fucking John Wayne Gacy doll," because I mean, yeah, it was a gift from before. Or hey, I know it's a Nazi doll that was propaganda 5 months ago, but we hate them now. You make sure we keep the, Hitler doll with Jeffrey Dahmer doll. I know it's nitpicks, but that's when I know I'm not engaged with the film, when I'm noticing these things. I'm like, that's fucking stupid. Why wasn't just a Wookiee doll or something? I mean, why?
Lots of groan-worthy moments. I guess there again, you have to explain it for them or come up with some excuse like, well, they probably lived on an Empire base, and they're, propaganda toys or whatever in the gift shop, but that was the girl's favorite toy, so her dad's not going to take it away. But it's not.
I mean, I know it's not a big deal, but it's just one of those things. I'm like, that's strange. Why?
If you have to go that far into trying to explain the relevance of it, then it probably shouldn't be there. I'm agreeing with you on that. I saw that and I was like, what?
I'm like, why wasn't that? Hell, make a fucking Ewok doll for all I care. Wookiee doll, a fucking just a little spaceship. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, it's a teeny tiny thing. It's not why I hated the film, because there's a Stormtrooper doll, and that's why.
No, that was just one of the many little things that were like, and that wasn't as bad as another one. Okay, they're on the Jedi homeworld or the temple. They're walking through the streets, and they run into those two assholes from the cantina in A New Hope. Makes no fucking sense whatsoever. These two guys were hanging out on Tatooine a couple days from now.
Yeah.
Why are they at the Jedi homeworld? what is their purpose for being there? Aren't they like cargo people? I mean, maybe they're at a spaceport, but it just seemed like it was unnecessary. It was shoehorned in just so somebody could have a "I know who they are" moment. Oh look, it's those guys. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. That is why.
And that pisses me off when I know that that's what it is. It's like, it's like, really? Do you think I'm 12 still? I mean,
Well, I know people are going to say, "What's the big deal? They're there. What? It doesn't hurt the film. What's the big deal?" B
well, if
movie
it doesn't
night.
hurt the film for those people, that's fine.
Yeah,
They don't have to share my opinion. If anybody out there loves Rogue One, you go right ahead. You keep on loving Rogue One,
yeah.
right? But I'm gonna keep on not liking it. Watching it again didn't do anything for me. It made me like it even less, if that was possible.
It was just. I mean, if you heard B movie Mike's yawn, that's how I felt watching the movie. It was just a boring film where they went from A to B to C, planet, planet, planet. Nothing happened until you got to an ending where they were just in a jungle setting. And I remember when I first heard about this, first I thought it was an X-Wing movie. I don't know why. I thought it was going to be an X-Wing movie. Like, okay, maybe it's like Top Gun, but with X-Wings. No, that wasn't it. Then I thought they were actually going into the Death Star to steal stuff, like breaking into the Death Star. And okay, I'd be open to see what's inside the Death Star because we only got a brief glimpse in A New Hope. Like, is there certain different rooms in the Death Star? Are there certain rooms that have certain traps? And just as a precaution, what would that be? Mission Impossible, but with Death Star? But that's not even the case. It's just they land on the planet that's almost like Return of the Jedi's planet, and then they all die. And then I'm like, other than pretty visuals, what's so good about this movie? What's so exciting? I can name 10 movies that have great visuals, but what is so good about this lead girl? She's bored to tears. And that's why it makes me think of Rooney Mara from the Elm Street remake. She's just that fucking walking cardboard that really does nothing in the movie. But it's so great. I don't get that.
I'm with you on that. I have no idea.
I ask people, name one piece of dialogue that's funny or good or memorable.
Outside
Just
of the
one
robot,
piece of dialogue.
outside of the robot, maybe the blind guy has got a couple of good ones.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
those that's it.
but even like the lead guys, the lead, all the conversation they have. Can you remember one line the two leads had? Even one? I can't.
I remember Cassian being very emo about everything, almost like in a permanent pout.
Right.
Like, I don't know. And she was like, just kind of like pissed off because she was wherever she was at. Wherever she was at was not where she wanted to be, and she made everybody, aware of that fact. She didn't like going to visit the guy with the gas mask, and then the dad, and then this and that. And the ending when they died, I felt nothing.
No.
I cared nothing. I mean, why? Like you were talking about with the X-wings, or maybe going into the Death Star. It would have been kind of cool, because that's what I thought it was supposed to be. A band of brave rebels on a suicide mission. Going out knowing they're not coming back. Not the goofy shit we got with go back to the pilot guy. He was more like a crackhead than he was some kind of imperial pilot. He's giggling and acting like a goof ass, tripping over shit. I mean, he was. Yeah, I would expect somebody like that to. Although, he was a cargo pilot, so therefore he wasn't battle hardened. That's why he was goofy. Whatever. But it was like how he made up the name. They're trying to get down onto the planet. What's your call sign? He's like, Rogue One. And he's like, it was just like, it was almost a Peter Griffin moment from Family Guy. It was just so stupid the way he said it. It was like, he said the title of the movie. He said the title of the movie. That's cool. It was just the way he said it was like, you really, in real life, they'd have been like, there is no such thing as that. We're going to shoot you down. And then they repeated, you talk about Jedi, they repeated the older code thing. When Han goes down to the surface of the planet, he gives them the entry code, and the guy says, well, it's an older code, but we'll let you go through. Because there was a minute there where they didn't know if they were going to be destroyed or if they were going to be allowed to pass.
Right.
Well, they repeat the same thing with this. It's like, oh, we have an older code, but we're overdue. You know, it was the same situation as Jedi, and then they put the Hoth vehicles on the Ewok planet, the Jedi planet. I was like, they seemed really out of place to me. Why would they be there? They were. I thought they were built for the Hoth planet. You know, I don't know. Maybe they weren't, but it just seemed really out of place. I'm like, oh wow, there's a walker. You know, what the hell is that thing doing in close combat like that? I mean, they were taking those things to destroy the shield, not to fight the ground troops. But now all of a sudden, there they are. Somebody says, oh, well, they're cargo ships. That's how they... I mean, I can think of a lot of better ways in that time frame to shuttle cargo instead of in these big elephant-looking tanks. I didn't get their purpose. And then we see in Empire how they have to use the tow cables to take them down because the blasters can't get through their armor plating. But in this movie, an X-Wing flies by with a couple shots and it explodes. And they're like, somebody explained it to me, well, the laser cannons on an X-Wing are more powerful than those on a snow fighter. Really?
Well, doesn't this movie also have different versions of X-Wings and TIE fighters that we never see again?
Yeah.
And then that's 3 movies?
Another big problem with this movie. It introduces shit that never comes back again. You know, and Darth Vader is never the same again. He's way too sassy. Be careful. Don't choke on your aspirations. You know, I thought I was going to do it like a make his neck work. You know what I mean? Don't choke on your aspirations. I was like, oh man.
Well, even when you mentioned this before, when he kills all those people in that hallway, that it does seem like that was a last minute shot, like because again, folks, they changed the entire ending. But then you look at A New Hope, and he gets in this slow fight with a 70-year-old Alec Guinness, where he's like, duh, 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 duh. And I know someone explained, well, he's being more careful because it's Obi-Wan. And I'm like, yeah, a 7-year-old Obi-Wan, and Darth Vader isn't giving a shit. He's not the type. Also, like, I know someone tried to explain this to me, but why the fuck is he living next to lava?
Yeah,
apparently
he lives on the planet where he was deformed. The planet at the end of Sith, where he falls into the lava. Apparently, that's where he chooses to live.
Someone said, oh, they put him there to make him more mad, to remind him of his loss or what happened to him. I'm like, so if I get bit by a rattlesnake, I'm going to live in a pit of snakes? I mean, there are other ways to... Don't you think he'd live on a ship or live, in the Death Star or live in the fucking...
Yeah, because was it in Empire when he had his,
He's not living in a lava... Well, I mean, this is before all that stuff with the prequels, but still, that's the point. Like, why isn't he... You said when you watch this before the new one, I mean, the Empire, why in that scene you're going to mention, why isn't he in lava?
Yeah, he's never in it again, ever. I mean, it's only brought up in Revenge of the Sith and then referenced in this film and then completely dropped.
It's weird. They reference that for Revenge of the Sith, but not the other one you're talking about how the Emperor has the plans or Dooku has the plans for the Death Star.
Yeah.
They forgot that, but they didn't forget the lava planet. They pick and choose, I guess. Which one.
Yeah, it's like they didn't bother to watch A New Hope to see how well the things would, because if I were making Rogue One, of course, I would be very respectful to the first film because it's the one that started it all. It's basically the first huge blockbuster film.
Right.
You could credit Jaws or some other ones, but yeah, I think Star Wars is really the first huge movie. I would want to make sure that the facts lined up, that I would be enhancing A New Hope instead of taking away from it. And I don't think they really paid attention to some of the plot points as to, like, we talked about the exhaust port. It was purposefully designed to be a weakness. No, that's bullshit. The Empire were arrogant, and they didn't think that anybody would ever be enough of a threat to get that close. They have TIE fighters and Star Destroyers and all these other things, and the Empire is the classic arrogant bad guy. I'm going to take over the world guy, the Dr. Evil type. They don't really stop to think about. They don't think of themselves as vulnerable. So finding the weakness to me was the expertise of the rebel leadership. They looked over the plans and then found this thing as a possible weakness, but they didn't know for sure. They're like, if there is a weakness, this is it. Good luck. We theorize if you put a torpedo down this pipe, it could cause a chain reaction. They theorize it could. They didn't say, it looks like it was designed to. And this guy's like, oh yeah, I designed it so that also, if they can blow that up, the whole thing will blow up.
Yeah, and also they were told in this movie that the girl even tells him, my dad did this. But I don't think that's ever mentioned in A New Hope. Like, hey, we're told that a guy who worked for this, look what he did. I mean, the woman that was in A New Hope, and I mean, it's a different actress, but with the short hair and in the computer room, the lead girl tells her, my dad did this. But that's never brought up in A New Hope. Like, she's not like, hey, a researcher made it so that we could do this, and because that was not anyone's minds.
And another thing I thought was funny is that they had like a United Nations meeting, and then they decided that she was full of shit and they weren't going to do anything. Oh, we don't believe the Empire has a Death Star. Oh, we don't believe what you say. We think they're peaceful. We're going to try and get along with them. We're not going to war. But we see A New Hope, and they're in their last desperate chance. 2 days later. It's, however long it takes Luke, maybe over a weekend. I think the first film takes place over a weekend. So you're looking at maybe 5 days later, after this UN meeting, that they declare there's no threat. They're in a fight for their lives.
I thought that was the point. It was an ongoing war that was more than 3 days.
And even the chick with the short haircut's like, no, I don't see a reason to mobilize the forces. What? Well, huh? I thought you knew this was happening.
That's why it's called A New Hope, because it's like there's been years.
Because you're on the edge of defeat. The Empire has almost won. So now A New Hope is presented. And he's the one with the Force that saves your ass and destroys the Death Star. Otherwise, you would be history. The Death Star would have cleared the planet and you would be toast.
Instead, it was just a bad 5 days. That's all it was. It's a bad 5 days, and then it's A New Hope. Those 5 days were bad.
All the bad shit happened in the 5 days leading up to A New Hope. Before that, everything was fine. I see no reason. We don't believe you. There's no evidence. I'm watching. I'm like, what the fuck who wrote this bullshit? Did you watch the movies? Do you even give a fuck? Apparently not. So yeah, insultingly stupid. That's why I say that.
And hell, it was also just boring. I mean, if people want to, if I always do this whenever I talk about on my videos. I always try to think about the 10 things people will comment down below and try to answer before them. Oh, you say a lot of things are quote nitpicks. To me, they're not. To you, they're not. At the end of the day, it's a boring movie. If you want to make it a popcorn movie, which is not, they say they want to be different. That's another thing. This notion, well, there's the reason there's no crawl, the reason there's this, is trying to be different. What's wrong with it being different? It's not good. It's boring. If you want to be a war movie, it's a half-ass war movie. You want to be a Dirty Dozen type of movie? It's a shitty Dirty Dozen movie. Watch the Dirty Dozen. Watch Red Dawn, the original. Hell, I can name one with Sammo Hung called Eastern Condors. I can name Uncommon Valor. I can name dozens of other movies that do this better because you have shitty characters and it's boring pace. It feels too long, and the only action you really get is the end. And yeah, a few minutes of eye candy does not save a 2 hour running time that is very fucking boring.
And Battle Beyond the Stars does it better.
There you go.
But yeah,
Forgot about
well,
that. Yeah.
that's another thing I noticed that while I'm watching this movie, it's the first time watching a Star Wars movie that I actually forgot I was watching a Star Wars movie during the movie. And then every once in a while, a character would pop in or something would happen. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm watching a Star Wars movie. That's not how you make a good Star Wars movie. You want to make it different to the point where it no longer represents or even references properly the source material.
Well, that's why on the title they have to say a Star Wars story, otherwise you would not know. It's like I'm glad you told me it's a Star Wars story. I thought it was a Star Trek story. I thought it was a Battlestar Galactica story.
I
I
mean,
thought it was a Kroll story.
why
I
can't they
wish it was
just
the Glaive can come in and
that title bothers me. It should be Star Wars Rogue One.
but
I
it's
mean,
a Star Wars story as if it's a fairy tale and yet yeah, it's a fairy tale. You'll fall asleep.
it's a
Just
bullshit
like a fairy
story.
tale.
Oh man, any final thoughts on Rogue One and why it's way overrated? Of course you have to account, and no offense to anybody, if you get offended, that's fine, whatever. But there are lemmings, and there are people that will, yeah, that's a good movie because maybe they want to fit in or be liked or something. It's a cultural thing, it's the Me Too's. Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Because they're, I don't know, afraid of individuality or whatever. But I'm not afraid to call bullshit, and on Rogue One, I call bullshit. It infuriated the shit out of me, and as a collector, I guess somebody's gonna have to buy it for me for Christmas because I cannot physically put my money down to buy this movie. Same thing with Force Awakens. I got it for Christmas as a present. I didn't purchase it. I have the collection, the 6 movie collection with the prequels on it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have those because I didn't have any Star Wars movies on Blu-ray, so I just bought that. Actually, no, I traded a couple movies for it. I didn't even buy it. Well, I just don't see myself being excited for the release date of Rogue One, which was just, I think, April 4th. It was just announced yesterday that the
Hmm.
Blu-ray release is April 4th, or I don't know. See, it already left my mind because I don't give a shit. I'm not buying it. I guess we could move on to The Force Awakens and how Return of the Jedi took a giant shit, and they called it that. They're so devoid of ideas. They're like, let's take the crawl of the first movie and make a piece of shit movie that has nothing to do with the first film. And what are we going to do with The Force Awakens? Let's remake A New Hope, but it'll be a sequel to Jedi. Brilliant. But I
I
will say that I watched it again because I did get it for Christmas, and I did enjoy it more than when I saw it in the theater. And this is where I probably differ from you on this.
yeah.
I like it better than Rogue One, but it's still, anyway, the bottom for me is A Phantom Menace. That to me is the worst Star Wars movie ever made. And then you'll probably tack on. I don't know if I can even put the prequels. I mean, they're.
I
Uh,
rather I rather watch the Phantom Menace than the Force Awakens or Rogue One. I'll
I
say
would
that
rather
for a
not watch
fact.
any of them. I think I'm
Well,
to the
yeah. I
point.
mean, well, yeah. Of course. I mean,
If somebody
that's
asked
the
me,
easy
what should I
answer.
watch, The Phantom Menace or Rogue One? I said, do yourself a favor, skip them both.
Watch Kroll.
Yeah, watch Crawl or something fun.
Yeah, watch Sword and the Sorcerer with some titties. Um, yeah. I mean, of course. The easy answer is just watch Star Wars: The Jedi. Just watch those 3 movies. There you go. Um, watch the holiday special.
Which is preferable to Phantom Menace. Yeah, that's right. I said it here. The Star Wars Holiday Special is better than the Phantom Menace.
I'm sure people would get mad. No, not. I mean, they'll get mad at me for whatever, but because it always happens. But how do you like? I the reason I say I take Fan Man's over Force Awakens or well, I already explained why Rogue One because I think it's a boring piece of stupid shit. Force Awakens, it's insulting. It's more insulting to me. I mean, The Phantom Menace, yeah, it is what it is, but Force Awakens as a sequel to those three films, they made those three films pointless. Phantom Menace didn't do that.
Well, what Phantom Menace did for me, it kind of, in a way, what Rogue One did, where it went back and changed it. But this is George Lucas, redoing his own story. It was established, I believe it was in Jedi, or was it, maybe it was Empire, that Yoda had trained Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Right? There was no Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn wasn't even in the picture. He didn't train Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original. It was Yoda. So they changed it in The Phantom Menace so that Yoda's like, I don't know, the president of the Jedi Guild or whatever, and this Qui-Gon Jinn guy is actually training Obi-Wan Kenobi. That character was completely unnecessary and inserted into the film for the sole purpose of Liam Neeson's star power. Because they didn't have enough big-name actors in the film, so the studio was bitching about it, so they created a role for Liam Neeson, and it was this Qui-Gon Jinn character. And to me, that's just as bad as anything that Rogue One does as far as revisiting the history and changing it. And George did that himself. So that's why I'm like, that really, I mean, I can't blame on George Lucas. I mean, he got tired of people hating him, so he sold the shit, which is, I understand. So I can't blame him for Rogue One, but I can blame him for Phantom Menace, and I mean, that's a bigger travesty to me, because the creator of the original, fucked his own shit up. He got so enamored with what he could do CGI-wise that he forgot to write a decent story. And the CGI doesn't hold up in Phantom Menace. I watched it the other night. It was horrible. I mean, I watched Jurassic Park from like the 90s. It looks better. I guess Phantom Menace was, 99?
Yeah.
But still, like 6 years earlier, the CGI was better.
I still really watching The Force Awakens. To me, The Force Awakens, I mean, I know people would get mad, so you can get mad on my channel, not on his channel. It's not BMOVIEMIKE's fault that I'm saying this, so don't get mad at him. The Force Awakens was a bigger insult to me because it pretty much said everything Luke Skywalker did was pointless. Everything Han Solo did was pointless. Everything Princess Leia did was pointless. Because after 3 movies and after Return of the Jedi, they're right back to where they were in A New Hope. Luke is on a desert planet, waiting for something to do. Han Solo is a pirate again. Leia is twiddling her thumbs.
She's whatever, yeah. She's the leader of the Resistance or whatever, but...
And not only that, you get an Empire that's 10 times bigger, a Death Star 10 times bigger, and they destroy most of the Republic. So everything they did from Star Wars: The Jedi, there was no point. Because at the beginning of this one, they're 10 times bigger, they're 10 times stronger, and they have another Death Star, only it's 10 times bigger, and all the characters, there is no advancement. Instead, there's a backward. They went backwards to square one, and deeming the 3 best movies pointless is the biggest flaw to me. That and remaking A New Hope, which is the laziest thing you can do. And it's just, to me, that's more insulting.
I can't argue with you on any of those points. I completely agree with you, and I could even go farther into, Kylo Ren is one of the most horrible Sith villains ever. That's another thing.
At least Phantom Menace had Darth Maul, who I can respect. This guy, I would spit.
My only problem with Darth Maul is that they killed him too soon.
Yes, he should have been the main villain in all 3 going up to Revenge of the Sith. He should have been the Darth Vader of all 3 movies.
As much as I like Christopher Lee, the Count Dooku guy, it should have been Darth Maul. He should have been the precursor to Darth Vader and been in all 3 of the prequels.
Yes.
Agreed. Or he could have died in the 3rd one and Vader replaced him, but we're already writing better movies than
Well, yeah, I mean, that's how, if you did a good Anakin Skywalker, he defeats Darth Maul And then that makes him evil because he killed, murdered, whatever you want to call it. And then that will lead, and you need a better actor as well. Like, I think one actor they looked at, God, it was the kid who killed himself. He was on Sequest. He was in Stephen King's It. He was in Sidekicks with Chuck Norris. Jonathan Brandis. He wanted the role, but he didn't get it. And he would have been better than Hayden Christensen.
I think.
I mean, the writing hurt as well. You need a better writer and a better actor on that one. The Phantom, on those three movies for that Anakin character.
I think the big mistake. Well, Hayden Christensen at all. He was not the right guy. I'm not saying he's a bad person or a bad actor, whatever, but he was terrible in that film.
Well, he's a bad actor. I've seen him in other films. Awake, Takers. Well, I saw bits of Takers, but Awake, he's a bad actor to me. I think he's horrible.
But even if he was in Attack of the Clones, they should have went with an older actor to portray the character in Sith. I think it was a mistake trying to make him look older because it just didn't work. Oh, they put a little scar on his face and he wears dark clothing now. We know he's bad. I think it should have been a different, more bruising type of a person that you knew was.
Right.
But yeah, so having him in all of them was pretty terrible. Hey, it looks like we have Cameron joining us. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? I've been getting random messages from Jay. There he is.
There's Jay.
And, so I think we've both been trying to connect for the last hour.
There we go.
Hey, what's up,
guys?
man?
Hey there.
Live on the BMOVIEMIKE channel.
I know. I was shocked. I was like, wow, he's actually streaming from his own channel. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I decided not to make the regular style videos anymore. It's just too much work and too many copyright bullshit strikes, and I don't make any money off of it anyway. So why work that damn hard if I don't have to? So, and this new live way is the lazy man's way of making a video, and I'm on board with that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to record podcasts all the time, and then edit them, and then and then you'd have to export them and upload them, and that took like all day long to do that. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather risk it being live and just have it automatically go up to YouTube in 10 minutes than deal with all that shit. So.
Yeah, Rambo and I have been talking about doing this for a while, and we tried last night, and I was in the wrong spot in YouTube. There's a place where you can use an encoder. I didn't know, because I thought Hangouts was part of Google Plus at one time, and it was kind of a separate thing, but now it's integrated in a way I didn't know how to get to it, but Jay finally was able to tell me how to do it. But we were going over different ways. Do we record a Skype thing? Do we do this? And it was all low quality and way too much work, so we were like, fuck it, we're going to wait for the Hangouts to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was that thing that people did on Twitter? They would like, what was that? It was like a live streaming thing, and people could like ask questions while you were on, and like it would come across your screen and stuff. What was that thing called? It was like
Periscope.
Yeah, that was it. And but the quality was horrendous. So.
Yeah. I think you can do that on Facebook Live now.
Oh, okay. But anyway, what were you guys you guys are still discussing Star Wars?
Yeah, we decided to do a little show, and our first subject matter is, of course, I don't want to terrorize Pizza with my hatred of the new Star Wars films on every single Sausage Factory episode. I know that gets on his damn nerves. so I figured let's just do a show and expose them for the pieces of shit that we think they are. Well, now, if you have an opposing opinion, feel free to chime in.
Well, what I'm interested in is that they just released that Target, Walmart, and Best Buy are going to have 3 different exclusive editions for the new Rogue One that comes out in April 4th. There's some okay little extras in there. No commentary, no deleted scenes, because you know why? That's going to be on the special edition that comes out at Thanksgiving. So Target's releasing a 5-disc box set for it on April 4th. Blu-ray 3D, Blu-ray special features, DVD special features only available on the DVD, and then digital copy. And that's just Target. Then Best Buy's got theirs, and then Walmart has theirs, which is all different. And but like the extras completely suck ass. And There's no delete because like Disney will never, ever, 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 ever release the original version of Rogue One or even most of those deleted scenes because it will show them that it will show everybody that either movie was better or just show them alternate and they're infallible. The mouse is infallible, so they can't show that.
Sure, it is.
Well, that's the way they look at it.
So,
What
was the original ending? I've heard rumors. I've heard
well, you can see it. You can see it. Like, here's the thing: in the trailers, if you watch all the trailers, most of the trailers, 70% of the footage shown in the trailers is never in the movie.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things that you see is like they have the hard drive, but then they have to run across the beach and go, and then they have to run in between all the AT-AT walkers and all that stuff. And then there's a moment in the trailer, which I'm sure you've seen, where she's on the platform and the X-Wing pulls up, right? And everybody I remember when that trailer came out, everyone was saying, oh, it's probably like Darth Vader behind the controls and he's just going to blow her off the pad and stuff like that. Well, it turns out that Disney, it wasn't a scene that was shot and then they cut it out. They have that scene is in the movie. It's just that they added the shot of the X-Wing, or not X-Wing, the TIE Fighter, to make it more exciting for the trailer. So they knew they were lying. And that just drives me nuts. I mean,
yeah, but that's why we were talking about Rogue One and Suicide Squad, suffering the same fate. You see the previews, you think, oh, look, you go watch the movie, and none of the shit you saw in the previews in the movie. You're like, well, what the fuck? Am I in the right movie?
But at least Suicide Squad, it was shot for the movie and then completely cut out. Rogue One, there are at least 3 shots that I know of that they shot just as like, hey, wouldn't that be fun to shoot this for the trailer only?
Well, their story on IMDb is that they hired a different guy, paid him $5 million, and gave him 6 weeks to shoot a new ending to the film. And he hired his brother to edit it. Yeah. And he's the one that cut out all the footage that was supposedly in the trailers. That's like their official story. Well,
look at Forrest Whitaker. In the trailers, he's bald, and in the movie, he's got an afro.
Yeah.
So
with his impersonation of Blue Velvet, Dennis Hopper.
His character was another one that was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, I thought it was horrible. And then they have that scene where the guy's sitting in the chair, and they send some weird like octopus thing or something at him
to torture him, and then it's okay later. It's all right.
I think it got him high on PCP or something because he was weird as shit after that.
Yeah.
As I talk like this about the dream.
Like a crackhead scurrying around.
See, the rumor I had heard was that the original ending was Darth Vader killing them one by one, like a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
But that was too dark. And then they just did this whole self-sacrifice thing, and I'm like, I don't care, because one's a cardboard and one's a wannabe Anita Montoya. I mean, I didn't care they died. And I guess the original script, everyone was going to live, or someone was going to live, and they're like, nah, just kill them off. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Just kill the movie off.
Well, yeah, they have. I mean, they all have to die, since it says very clear in the other movies that they had a sacrifice. But the thing is, everyone praises the Darth Vader scene towards the end, and as a scene, it's a good scene, I guess.
And which 3 days later he's doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
With a 7-year-old Alec Guinness.
No. And the thing is, though, is that you say, well, but the problem is that it was Rogue One's responsibility to sync up. Yeah. That's all they had to do, was just sync it up. Now, if this movie had taken place 10 years earlier, okay, fine. I'm all for that scene.
Yeah.
Yep. But supposedly 3 days later, he's fighting Obi-Wan Kenobi like Frankenstein's monster. Then no, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like in this movie, he's hands-on, and 2 days later, he's Pimp Vader.
Right.
Where he lets the minions do all the work, and he just comes in and mops up. Mm-hmm. He's Lord Vader. And he was more Jaws-like, more, the unstoppable force that's coming at you slow, like a Michael Myers type thing. He was never a Jackie Chan.
Well,
so yeah, it kind of bothered me when I saw him, force flipping fuckers all around the place. I was just like, why didn't I see that in one of the other movies? That'd have been great in Empire when he was in Cloud City, but all he did was take Han's gun.
Yeah,
and it was a very,
I'm sure his fight with Luke would have been very different if he could have just been
If they had today's technology back then, those movies would be completely different.
Yeah.
And when he chokes that the guy that designed the Death Star, built the Death Star, and is responsible for it,
Right.
I thought that was such a I don't know, such a teenage thing where he's just like, don't let your choke on your aspirations, like he's doing some kind of a neck flip, snap,
And when
snap, and he's like shows his fingers and he's like doing this, and it's like as soon as he starts choking, we know what's going on.
Right. It's a callback to a movie that's supposed to be next.
Right. So we don't really need to see the fingers. We know what Darth Vader's capable of as soon as the guy starts choking. And I thought that scene was handled poorly.
And we're all old school, right? So
yeah.
When we see Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar, this volcanic planet, all I'm thinking about is Snake Mountain from He-Man.
Skeletor.
Yeah.
Well, even Mike brought up a good point. Like in Empire, you would see Darth in that room that's like white room, and why isn't he just back on his fucking lava planet? Why is he living next to lava? Was there on his day off? His fucking vacation spot?
It's to remind himself of what Obi-Wan did to him so he can never lose his anger. Somebody said that it was supposed to represent his turn to the dark side, to remind him of why he turned or something. I just think it's stupid. He had some kind of portable thing in Empire, didn't he? Or he was in some kind of an enclosure with his helmet off. Because I think we see it open up and then his helmet comes down on his head.
And I know you guys had problems with like Force Awakens and stuff like that, but Disney will never do this. But it's almost like a perverse idea that by the time they get to Part 9, I'm hoping that Kylo Ren, who becomes good, and what's her name, Rey, becomes evil, and then that's who clashes at the end. Is like he has to kill her now.
Well, he's going to have to nut up majorly.
Yeah.
He is not a tough guy. He was one of the main things I hated about that movie. But a little bit more about we'll go back to Rogue One since you guys joined us. I was talking to Rambo earlier about the scene where
well, while he's doing that, I wanted to ask you guys, I asked Mike this. They have a CGI pediatrician that's not even his voice, of course, because he passed away. Why spend so much time and money on him when James Earl Jones is alive and you can have more Vader? And people want to see more Vader and not CGI pediatrician that's not his voice. But you spend millions on that when you can have any guy dressed up as Vader and James Earl Jones is alive, but let's not have any Vader. Even though that's what people want to see in a movie before A New Hope with more Vader.
Well, I think because one is right before the movie came out, they dropped the novel Tarkin, and that was a big hit. And what's interesting is that in Rogue One, he's not in it, obviously, but he's in it more than he is in A New Hope.
That was my problem with it. I thought some of the scenes with him were effective, like some of the shadow scenes with him with his back to somebody or maybe a profile. But when he full on turned around, I felt like I was playing a video game.
Right.
It was pretty horrible.
I think they could have done it much more subtly than just full on like, here he is.
And David Prowse is still alive. Why was he not in the Vader suit? I mean, we bring back Mayhew for Chewbacca, but you won't bring back Prowse for Vader? Considering he plays Vader in the next film, you think it would match up better? I'm sure he would do it. He's available. He's doing the rounds on the circuit doing the autograph thing.
Well, it wasn't Hayden Christensen in the suit, so...
Now, whoever it was, it still didn't look right. And the physicality of the character wasn't right.
It's also because that whole scene at the end was a reshoot. I mean, it never was part of the original movie. So, and that's why I think when you see Leia at the end, as bad as Peter Cushing is, I think she's even worse just because they spent no time on her. She really looks over.
That was jarring when she turned around to run away. I was literally taken aback by that. How horrible that looked.
I think that honestly, if they had just gone down the hallway, given it to a figure in white with the buns in their hair, like at the end of the hallway, like the first time we see her in the movies, her down the hallway with R2-D2, I think we all would have known who it was. Again, they didn't have to do the full on, especially since they hired an actress to play her and then CGI'd over her face.
Okay. I was going to ask how they did that.
Yeah.
That's another character that really didn't need to turn around. We like you said, we identify who she is by the hairdo and the clothing. Oh, we obviously know who that is.
Right.
But what I was going to go back to something I said earlier about they have like a UN meeting when this girl comes back with the news that her father did this, but she doesn't have proof, right? So they don't believe her. Well, this movie takes place like maybe 5 or 6 days before the Death Star is destroyed. And now at this point, they don't believe her that there's a Death Star. There's no reason to go to war. They think she's full of shit. And even the lady with the short hair that leads the rebellion sees no reason to scramble the troops. But she was there to get the plans to the Death Star, but that they didn't believe in and didn't feel the need to go to war over. So they had to sneak in on their own to get the plans that the people knew about but didn't believe they existed.
Right.
And then 5 days later, they're on the verge of being wiped out.
So wait a minute. The beginning of Star Wars, there was only a 5-day war so far.
Well, from the time they found Luke until they blew up the Death Star was like a weekend. They went to Mos Eisley, then they caught the Millennium Falcon, then they tried to go to Alderaan, they ran into the Death Star.
It was a bad week. It was a bad week.
Then they got away from the Death Star, they made it to the Rebel base, the Death Star is chasing them to the Rebel base. It's going to clear the planet, and if it does, it destroys us. They deploy the X-Wings, Luke blows it up, end of movie. It's like 3 or 4 days, maybe.
Mike, I think you're like overthinking it because in the Rogue One they say, what's your call sign, and they're just like, oh, it's Rogue One. So right,
he said that. He
I made fun of that. I made fun of that.
Right, and that's
like a Family Guy.
It's like we're dealing with a movie where anything that's remotely interesting or cool is just like it's just a given. There's no reason why it's called Rogue One. That's just what the guy named it. And so there's like no thought behind it. It's just like, okay, we just need to get A to B to C. And yet they use like 4 or 5 different scripts to get A to B to C. And so it's not a clear through line. And then like, if you watch the trailers, Jyn Erso is like supposed to be like some sort of Snake Plissken character. And yet they completely edited out all her like cocky lines that she had in the movie to make her just kind of like this girl with like a blank face, through the whole movie. So,
and she went from being the one that completely didn't give a shit and didn't want to be involved to the person that was trying to rally the troops at the end of the film. That was kind of a quick character arc there. But this whole movie started out, Rogue One started out, it pissed me off from the start. With the Inglourious Bastards ripoff of the Nazi going to the French country house to get the Jews. Only it's to kidnap Albert Einstein to help him build the bomb. I mean, not the bomb, but Anyway, it's like without World War II, would these movies exist? Holy shit. But anyway, so we get this guy who, they kill his wife and they kidnap him and make him build this thing. So as an act of revenge so that he can sleep at night with a clear conscience, he designs a flaw in the Death Star. A flaw that Luke Skywalker needed the Force to be able to, utilize. His targeting computer could not target this. So if it was a built-in flaw, that means anybody could shoot this thing because it was secret that nobody knew about, so they wouldn't protect it. So that, again, robs from A New Hope. I'm like, well, wait a minute. No, I mean, they got the plans. They studied the plans. They found what could be an exploitable flaw, and possibly the only one. Knowing it was a suicide mission, they sent these guys in, and if Luke didn't have the Force with him, and Obi-Wan didn't tell him, use the Force, Luke, they wouldn't have blown up the Death Star, and the rebels would have been killed. But in this movie, it's established that the flaw was there on purpose.
Well,
that to me was completely, the entire purpose of the movie was flawed from the start.
It's something simple that they just have to overcomplicate nowadays. It's,
and it's called retconning.
It's revisionist history, and it pisses me off because it's I'm like at the beginning of the show. I said, I was 8.5 when I sat in the theater and watched the first Star Wars, 1977. It made a big impact on me. So yeah, I'm a fanatic about it. Right. It's one of those movies from my childhood that's sacred to me. I mean, I think Empire's the better film, but the first film is always going to be special. So when you're going back to these films are important, and I think Disney, wanting to build a Marvel-like franchise into the future with endless Star Wars movies, to me, they're doing it like DC instead of Marvel. They're stumbling all over the place. I mean, they're following the wrong way to do it. So yeah, Rogue One from the start was flawed. No John Williams music. I can forgive the crawl, but it took away from the fact that it was a Star Wars movie. It should have been, the title of the movie should have been Star Wars Rogue One. If they're going to do that.
Well, I always thought with the crawl that when some people said, "Oh, it should have a crawl," I agree that it probably shouldn't have had a crawl. But what it should have done was, because this is Star Wars 3.5, basically, is show us the planets in disarray since the Empire has taken over. And instead of a crawl, just give us some text and say it's been 15 years since the Empire's gain, societies have crumbled, and just kind of give us a little bit of text, a little bit of perspective, but didn't have to give us the full crawl and then go straight into the movie. But the thing is, though, they hide her as a little girl, Jen Erso, and then all of a sudden she's an adult. And then we're supposed to have like this connection to Forrest Whitaker because they expected every single person to have sat through all 6 seasons of the Clone Wars, and no one did, no one except the extreme fanatics did. So, there's no. I don't have any investment with Forrest Whitaker. I don't care if he stays on the planet and dies. Who cares? That whole section, I think, should have been out of the movie. They're doing rewrites and recuts. They should have just cut out Forrest Whitaker altogether.
Yeah, Rambo and I were trying to go over things that we liked about it. The robot and the blind guy.
Well,
Those are the only two things I could come up with.
The visuals.
And the visuals. It did look like a good movie. But the music, I didn't like it.
Terrible.
Of course, the guy only had, 5 days to write the score after they decided to redo the ending?
Yeah.
They couldn't use the original score because it didn't match up anymore. So some poor guy had to write an entire thing in over a extended weekend.
Right.
So that didn't really.
Well, why didn't they use some of the John Williams music? I mean, they own it.
Again, there you go. I mean, I think there is a spot in one area, if I remember right, of the film where they do introduce the original music. It's during the ending battle. It might be when the forces come out of hyperspace. When they decide to finally go back them up, they're like, "Oh, look, they're fighting."
Right.
Let's join them finally. Like, we should have been there anyway, but whatever. When they show up, Akbar, his race has some fucking. Those fishmen have balls. I like those guys. They're the first ones out there. They're like, they're doing it. Fuck it, we're in. Let's go. They wanted to fight from the beginning. I like those guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they pulled it. I liked how they showed them coming out of hyperspace. That was pretty cool. They just kind of stopped, and then they start with the classic music, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. It reminded me of Jedi, but it reminded me of a pale imitation of Jedi, kind of like The Force Awakens was a pale imitation of A New Hope.
Well, they kept saying how they don't want it to be a Star Wars movie. That's what. Oh, it's not like a typical Star Wars. We're different. So maybe that's why they didn't use the music and no.
But they ended up being New
I
Coke.
keep thinking of Crawl with the glaive. Crawl. I meant to say Crawl. And I mentioned the direction. The whole beginning where the girl's dad died. I mentioned this to Mike, but the dad died. Forrest Whitaker's there. For all I know, he could eat her any second, and he finds her. And then the title, and then it's this triumphant music. I'm like, you just set up that this is a dire where a mom died, kids by herself. This scary looking Forrest Whitaker could kill her, for all I know. And the next scene is a title where like we're triumphant,
and that title design is straight out of iMovie. I mean, it's horrible. it looks so bad. Yeah.
What?
I can't wait. I can't wait for. But Mike, you said something a while ago, and I'm just curious. Are you officially done with Star Wars until you hear something better has come along?
I'm going to give Episode 8 a chance.
So you're not going to go see the Han Solo Chewbacca Lando movie that they're making right now.
Considering what Rogue One was, I don't know if I want any more.
But you know what, though? I think Rogue One had a lot of problems, too, because, and I hate to say it, because I hear he's a nice guy, but Gareth Edwards is just not a really good director. I mean, Godzilla is awful, except for the Godzilla scenes. Like, it's so boring.
Well, the biggest problem with that movie is they killed off Bryan Cranston. Yeah. They should have never done that. It should have been him and that other scientist guy traveling around the world instead of his son.
Right.
That would, yeah. So big problem there. But
But I mean, if you look at his movies, they all have pacing problems. They all have issues, and so for Disney to basically grab this guy who is coming off the indie world a little bit, and they're thinking, hey, we can get these guys in here. They'll do it at a price. They'll be cheap, and we can basically boss them around. I don't think we're gonna have the problems of Rogue One again. I think they've learned from their mistakes, hopefully. But
I don't think they feel it's a mistake because we're in the minority. Most people love the movie. Right?
yeah, I was gonna say it made tanker
So
trucks full
I don't
of
think
cash.
they think it is a mistake.
So I don't see how they won't consider it. I think it'll put them in the position of they'll eat up anything.
Has like
It could
80-some
possibly
percent.
make it worse.
Has a high rating on Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb. I believe me, I know people were pissed that I didn't like it. So there's a lot of fans. It's like Godzilla had a lot of fans. So be careful what you say about Godzilla because people will come after you.
I liked Godzilla just because I'm a mark for Godzilla, but it wasn't great.
But you know me, I hate everything, so I don't care.
And and it was clever for a second or two in Godzilla when it's like, okay, we're about to see something. Oh no, we're not. Like it's kind of funny, but after the 7th time they do that shit, it's just enough.
I remember that.
The mutos or whatever they were. I thought that
The
was
Muto
completely
Putos,
unnecessary. They
whatever the fuck
looked like the creature from freaking Cloverfield. I was just like, what movie am I watching?
Mutos the Putos.
Yeah. So I mean, but I don't know. And I don't know. It's just I'm not as negative on Rogue One as you guys are, but it is ultimately, unfortunately, a forgettable movie. With it has some good things in it. I think it's almost like I admire things about it more than I like it, and because I like the universe, I don't mind watching it. It's like it's like a bad Friday the 13th movie. It's like I know it's shit, but I'll still kind of watch
Jason. What is like Jason Goes to Hell though?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I can't see this one being on my instant repeat watch, all the time. But I think there are aspects to it that, like you said, the robot's cool, and there's some good moments in it. But I don't know. I mean, to me, I know you guys are down on Force Awakens too, but I thought Force Awakens at least was much more like assured about what it was and what it was trying to do. Rogue One seems confused.
My problem with Force Awakens mainly is that we have an overpowered character that didn't earn her powers. And okay, so that's going to be explained in the next film. It better be a really good fucking explanation. And then we have Kyle Ren or Krylo or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Who's like this little whiny crybaby that throws fits when things don't go his way.
Yeah.
That's not a badass Sith. That's not Darth Maul. That's not Darth Vader.
No.
That's some kid in diapers. Get that little pussy out of here. It was
that's
insulting.
But that's what I liked about it, because he so much wanted to be Darth Vader, and he's so not.
Yeah, but he's trying to continue his mission. Didn't Darth Vader kill the Emperor and bring the Empire to an end?
Yeah. But he looks
so what mission are you trying to complete?
Well, like I said, he's an idiot, and that's what I liked about it. Now, I don't know what the official answer is going to be, but right now, the way I look at Rey, when everyone says like, well, how is she a badass when she does, how does she know how to fly the Millennium Falcon, all this stuff? The way I justify it right now, and of course I could be totally wrong, is that she was training with Luke with all the other little wannabe Jedis, and when Kylo went in and massacred everybody, she got sent off. So this is all like just like memories coming back about how to do stuff.
And that is possible. And if they do that in the next movie, then that will make that'll make this movie better. Because I think The Force Awakens really is either going to be improved by Part 8, or it's going to be exposed for the shit that it is at the moment. Mm-hmm. Kylo Ren was like, I don't know, he had a big, massive inferiority complex, but I guess, when your uncle is Luke Skywalker, your dad's Han Solo, and you're named after Ben Kenobi, it's going to be kind of hard to live up to that shit, Well,
not only that, but he is like Luke. He is like Anakin Skywalker. He's a whiny little bitch. And that's, it's part of the family.
Well, Luke wasn't as much of a bitch as his father.
Yeah.
he was a little bit more of a...
Well, he had to go get his power converters.
Yeah, well, he was a little bit whiny with his uncle and shit. But once he got into the story, he was gung-ho. He's ready to kick some ass.
But I do like the rumblings I'm hearing that like Luke is, communicating with Yoda. I like this idea. I get really nervous though, because not because I believe it, but I believe that Disney could do this if they really want to just piss off everybody, which is not make Rey the Jedi in training that got sent away as a little girl. There were rumors for a while that she could be, dare I say it, the reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. Now that will make me turn off the series.
So are they going back to the fact that Anakin, that was in The Phantom Menace, and Anakin was the immaculate conception of the midichlorians, that he didn't have a daddy, he was formed in the womb by midichlorians? Is that what she is?
Now remember though, in Revenge of the Sith, there's that moment where Anakin's at some weird like opera play or some whatever the hell it is with the Emperor, and the Emperor tells Anakin that he learned from his master how to manipulate the midichlorians, and so he implicates that he is the responsible one for creating Anakin.
I thought maybe his master wasn't too good at it, because didn't he kill him?
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is, and this is what I'm hoping. Disney says they're not doing it, but I'm hoping that the Snoke guy is the master of the Emperor, because he says in that speech he knew how to cheat death. So what if he's trying to take over, again? So that would be cool. But
see,
I don't
the
think
things you're talking about now are better than the movie we saw.
Okay. Well, hopefully, I'm hoping. I'm putting trust that that's where they're going to take us, because otherwise, Force Awakens won't hold up. But if it does, It's going to be stronger.
But as is, for me, I like The Force Awakens more than Rogue One.
Yes.
Rambo's opposite of that.
Okay.
But I thought The Force Awakens had more of the feel. It had the music. Mm-hmm. It had the comic relief. You had the characters that you cared about. Mm-hmm. Chewbacca was amazing. I thought Peter Mayhew was awesome in that movie. Yeah. He was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
Even though they'd invented a new R2-D2 and they have a new Luke or whatever, and the whiny ass, it was still. Oh boy, we'll make the even Han Solo. That just looks like the Death Star but bigger. Yeah, it was really creative, wasn't it, Han?
Well, I like the fact that if you look at it this way, when Kylo was a little boy and he was being raised by Leia and Han, Chewbacca was there. Chewbacca watched Kylo Ren grow up and do his thing. But the moment he stabbed Han Solo, Chewbacca didn't think twice. He went and just shot him right in the gut.
But actually, I think that's the reason why he didn't shoot him in the head.
Okay.
Because of that. Because he probably was bouncing on Chewbacca's knee when he was 3 years old.
Right.
Pulling on his hair. And so he helped raise him. So I saw a panel cartoon about that.
Yeah.
Where it showed Chewbacca aiming at him, and then it showed him remembering what he was like when he was a little boy, and then it shows him moving the cursor from the head to the gut. Just say, I kind of think that's probably what happened. He was pissed because he just killed his best friend, but he's like, damn it, you're still my best friend's kid.
Well, the thing is, though, it's like, Harrison Ford has been wanting out of this series ever since Empire. So at the end of Force Awakens, he gets stabbed, he falls off a bridge, and then the planet blows up. I mean, how dead can he be?
I think maybe that's what pissed me off about Han Solo's death so much, because it wasn't necessarily there to serve the story. It was there to satisfy Harrison Ford and fuck him. You know what I'm saying?
Let's flip it, though. What if it wasn't Harrison Ford? What if Kylo Ren had stabbed Leia? Now that would have been something. If he killed his mom instead of his dad. Would that have, that would have given you the feels in the other direction. And then I'd love to see like Han Solo on a warpath to kill his own son.
I just think that confrontation would have ended differently, because Han Solo, being the rogue that he is with the Greedo, he shot first.
Right.
He's pretty much ready for anything, knowing what Darth Vader was, knowing what has a hold of his son, that he would be a little bit more on edge and ready for anything.
Right.
So I just think he went out a little too weakly, and it was because that's the way he wanted to go out. Now, Kylo Ren taking off his mask when he's got Rey, right? He's trying to read her mind, but she's blocking him.
Right.
I think taking off his mask in that scene was a mistake. Now, they should have waited till the end when he killed his dad for the reveal. I think that would have had more impact if you didn't see his face until he confronts his dad. Because if he's going to kill him, at least that way it kind of gives you a little bit well, he's exposing himself to his father, so therefore, well, not in that way, but anyway, he's showing vulnerability to his father by exposing his true form. Therefore, maybe Han Solo can actually reach him and then kill.
Right.
I think that would have had more impact on Han's death if they had built him up to be a badder ass than what he was, instead of throwing fits. And I love that one scene where when Rey gets out and he's destroying that room and the stormtroopers walk around the corner and they hear him cussing and screaming and bashing shit and they turn around and walk the other way.
Right. It's so funny.
Oh shit, the prince is upset again.
And you know why his name's Kylo? Because he's the product of both a Skywalker and a Solo. So Kylo, Skywalker Solo. So
well, his name is Ben Solo.
Right. So, but the this thing is like, they made it such a big stink before the movie came out about this thing called Knights of Ren, and you only see them in like one shot in like a flashback scene of Rey's nightmare of like Kylo with an army of other guys with lightsabers, that killed all the other Jedis. So hopefully they'll get into all that. And the director of Episode 8, he made Looper and what the hell else? I can't remember what else he made, but he's a pretty. People seem to like him, and they always say his films are incredibly dark. So obviously, the middle of the film is always going to be compared to Empire. So hopefully, we'll go there. I mean, they're saying that this is going to be the first Star Wars movie that doesn't start up like months later. It's going to start right where Force Awakens ended. So how do you even do a crawl when it's going to start right where the last one left off? So
you were talking about the feels if he killed his mom. I kind of thought that Han Solo dropped the ball there. He should have used that against Kylo Ren. He should have said, your mom sent me here.
Right.
She is pissed off and she's worried about you and she wants your ass home now. He could have kind of used the kid's feelings for his mother to distract him from that, and I think he could have manipulated him a little bit better. But that didn't happen. I thought, well, that was a missed opportunity. They just wanted to kill Han Solo. Let's get him in an area where he's vulnerable, and then we'll just pull a fake out and kill him, and now it's over with. Let's get on with the movie.
And yet the ironic thing is that, Harrison Ford is notorious for not ever wanting to do publicity, interviews, that type of thing, to promote anything. And yet he was the happiest you'd ever seen him during The Force Awakens. He was out there doing like Skype calls with fans and going to Disney shows and stuff like that. So he was on cloud nine apparently. And now he is just pushing for this Indiana Jones 5 to be made.
It's like he's on his victory lap. He's just kind of going around one more time. This is the last round.
Exactly. I mean, where's
to the fans?
Where's Witness 2? I mean, let's get that going. Or Mosquito Coast 2 or something.
Mosquito Coast, that'd be kind of cool to see what happened to the Mosquito dad, because he was crazy.
Yeah.
Eventually the wife divorced him and took the kids and got the fuck away from him. Maybe he went back to the jungle, maybe. That'd be cool. It's a 70-something-year-old man out there living like Tarzan. That'd be hilarious.
We could just begin it with Guns N' Roses' Welcome to the Jungle. Just, he's got to fight Kong, Skull Island. Yeah, that'd be incredible. I don't know. I'm curious to see, because like what Disney is going to do with these with this series, because obviously the first two films they released, the first one made $2 billion and the second one made over $1 billion. So Star Wars is not going away anytime soon. I mean, they said that at least for the next 10 years we're going to have one every Christmas. So get ready.
With the quality I've seen from the last two, my hopes are not very high. I'm going to go see Part 8 to see how they deal with the 7 questions. Why is Kylo Ren a little bitch? How come Rey is overpowered and didn't earn her powers like Luke had to for 3 films? We saw Luke train with Yoda. We saw him fail. We saw him confront himself in the cave. And I mean, we didn't see that from her. It'd be like if Luke started out as badass as Darth Vader in the first movie, and it wasn't Obi-Wan that fought him; it was Luke.
Right.
Another thing that pissed me off about the Force Awakens was Luke is the old man on the mountain. Now, even Mark Hamill, when he was reading the script, I saw this in a Comic-Con type thing where he was on stage doing a Q&A. When he first read the script, and there's a scene at the end when she's getting ready to fight with Kylo Ren when there's the lightsaber in the snow, and then the lightsaber starts to quiver and goes to an off-screen hand.
Right.
Even Mark Hamill thought that was his entrance. And when I was watching the movie, that's exactly what I thought. I thought, oh shit, Luke Skywalker showed up to save the day. I didn't think he was going to kill Kylo Ren, but I thought he was going to save Rey and Gary the Stormtrooper.
Right.
So, yeah, when it wasn't him, and when Gary the Stormtrooper was when he was putting up a fight with Kylo Ren, I'm like, holy shit! What did a janitor knock the shit out of Darth Vader? What the fuck is going on here? I don't know. I mean, that movie has a lot of problems. Making those two the leads was a problem for me.
He's a Jedi too. They'll be in the next one as well.
Nah.
But it's like he's a little bit better than the pilot in Rogue One because he at least has some kind of personality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a guy that was stolen and enslaved, and he just wants to get the fuck out of there and go as far away from the New Order. Why can't you just call it the Empire?
I just think it's funny that when Finn, not Gary, but Finn, says that he worked in oh God, what does he say he worked in?
Sanitation, I think.
Sanitation. And that to me makes me laugh because if you remember Kevin Smith's Clerks, when they're talking about the Death Star and who was building it and stuff and all the contractors that got killed, he says, do you think a stormtrooper knows how to, start, get a toilet going and in the Death Star? And so I thought it was like kind of like a joke with Clerks, because JJ loves that kind of shit too. So I don't know. It made me laugh, but I love the fact that like in the original Star Wars films, there's good and there's bad. And in this new one, you have Kylo who wants so much to be bad, and yet he's just like a whiny little bitch. And I just think that's great because to me that just represents the millennial generation. They think they're just badass, and you're just like, oh my God, you're a bunch of wusses. He's like hitting himself in the chest, like I'm tough, I can take it. And it's like, oh no, you're an idiot.
That whole thing where first of all, it was a laser, so wouldn't it cauterize the wound and he wouldn't be bleeding out? Sorry, I hate to get picky. It was a crossbow bolt.
Well, the whole thing is with when Yoda says in the Phantom Menace, whatever, fear leads the dark side and anger and hate and all. So he's punching himself in the gut to try to make himself mad because he's not mad enough.
I thought he was trying to cover up the pain from being shot with the crossbow. That was kind of his way of hyping himself up to get over the pain because they did establish. And they love to establish that when Han Solo, we're supposed to believe he's never, ever shot Chewie's crossbow in the 40 years they've been hanging out together. Mm. But he grabs Chewie's crossbow and shoots it and goes, I got to get me one of these.
Right.
So why'd they do that? They did that to establish the power of the bow so that when he shot Kylo Ren, it would make Kylo Ren look tough. Mm-hmm. Right? He shot it. That bow blows shit up, but it just, it was a flesh wound. It was a mere flesh wound. That's why he was like the knight from Monty Python walking around, it's a flesh wound, punching himself and shit.
Would you have liked it if Chewbacca had shot Kylo Ren and he just exploded on the bridge?
Yes. That would have been great. I would have stood up and applaud that. Because he is not a good villain. He's a horrible villain. I don't know what they're going to do to redeem that character.
I don't think they're going to redeem him. But because how do you come back from killing Han Solo? You can't.
Well, you're going to have to go after Luke, because Luke's going to come after you.
But how are they going to alter the Leia storyline? Because she's gone now, right? So, apparently she is in 8, obviously, and then she was supposed to be a big part of 9. So, are they going to just give that role over to Luke? Or are they going to recast the role? I mean.
Well, I kind of, when I was watching The Force Awakens and I saw that it was pretty much beat for beat A New Hope, I kind of expected Luke to be the Obi-Wan character and sacrifice himself like Obi-Wan did to save them. It was just the way it was mirroring everything. I always started on Tatooine. You have this person. You go here and there. Hey, there's Han Solo.
Yeah, that was the biggest problem I had.
Go ahead, Jay. You haven't talked too much. What do you think?
Well, I haven't seen Rogue One, so I've just been listening to what you guys have to say. No, Force Awakens I enjoy. I watched it again the other day. It's a good film, but I just really feel like it's just totally playing to the fanboys, and that's my main problem. But I still like the film for what it is, but. Yeah, it's no masterpiece like the original.
But the characters are pretty likable, and the dialogue is pretty funny, and it moves along.
It feels like a Star Wars movie, at least. Rogue One to me did not feel like a Star Wars movie, even though it's a Star Wars story. It didn't feel like it.
I just really wish they would get away from the original characters and explore more of the world. That's what I'd like to see. I don't want to see any more prequels. I don't want to see recast Han Solo and all the other characters. I don't want to see any of that shit. I have no desire to see any of that at all. But I know it's coming. We got a Lando Solo movie coming, and
I would like to see a Jar Jar standalone though, where him just being a badass with a lightsaber. That poster that's going around is hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty funny.
What he ended up being.
Well, not the clown, not the clown. No, the Jar Jar one with him with the wearing Darth Vader's like cloak with the lightsaber on Mustafar. It's just fantastic. It's like The Last Jedi, and I'm like, I would see that movie.
Misa Last Jedi.
Well, remember, he wasn't just annoying in The Phantom Menace. I mean, George Lucas was like, you guys think he's annoying? Fine. I'm going to make him the whole reason why the Empire took over the galaxy.
I noticed that. I'm like, Queen Amidala, you know what, Jar Jar, fuck it. You take my place. You're in charge. What? The biggest moron around you? You're going to put him in charge? That's her fault. Fuck her.
Yeah, I just love it.
Well, yeah. Mike, you've seen the prequels recently. I mean, how do you think these newer films hold up?
Oh my God! Well, to me, nothing is worse than The Phantom Menace. That movie is horrible. Qui-Gon Jinn is a character that was made up just for the film. It totally screws over Empire when Obi-Wan's talking about how Yoda trained him. I was like that when you trained me. Where does Qui-Gon Jinn come from? The Darth Vader being born of midichlorians without a father. Jesus much? I mean, but he's the Antichrist, or what's going on here? Midichlorians, really? I mean, the Jar Jar Binks. The list goes on with that fucking movie. We had Rambo and I had talked about it would have been better if Darth Maul had been in the movie more. If he would have been the new Darth Vader for the trilogy before Darth Vader was born, created or whatever.
Sure.
And it would have been cool if Yoda was going around with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Instead of Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, I think that's what fans wanted to see. Fans wanted to see, Obi-Wan when he was young. They wanted to see Yoda. They wanted to see some good shit. And we got Jar Jar Binks and Qui-Gon Jinn and the Gungans and this Trade Federation bullshit. It was boring and stupid, and the dialogue was, fuck that movie. So yes, The Phantom Menace is worse than Rogue One in that respect. Because it was George Lucas insulting his own fucking source material by fuck him. And then Attack of the Clones, Hayden Christensen should have never been in that movie. I don't like sand. Fuck you and your sand. Then he gets the visions of his mother being tortured. He gets the visions of his mother being tortured, and he goes, you know what? I think about right now it would be too fucking late for me to do anything about it, so let's go. And then he goes and her husband or whatever is missing a leg, I guess, because the Tusken Raiders wanted a barbecue. That wasn't really whatever. I guess he went after him and lost a leg. So he's like, oh, it's too late, son. She's already gone. And he's like, fuck you, right? And he goes out. It takes him like 30 minutes. It's not even like a drive around the block. And there they are. He sneaks into the one tent. There she is, tied up and she dies immediately as he unties her. Oh, Annie, And then he slaughters the whole fucking village and goes back and gets all emo about it. I killed them all. Women, children. Yeah, so fuck him and Kylo Ren.
And yet you can quote this movie.
I just watched him recently. It's burned into my brain. But I skipped Sith because Hayden Christensen should have been recast. You have an older, more serious Darth Vader character where he's about to turn into the adult Darth Vader, and you still have this whiny teenager running around bitching all the time.
It would be like if they made Omen Final Conflict with the same kid from Damien Omen 2.
He's about 15, but he's running for governor. Exactly.
Yeah, it should have been another actor. Yeah, I agree.
And then they put him in the suit, and he was just too damn skinny for the suit, and then no, fucking horrible. Anyway, So yeah, I have no esteem for the prequels whatsoever.
B movie Mike, you're breaking my heart. You're going down a path I can't follow.
Those movies were a path that should have never been followed.
But I'll say this about the prequels. All right, I do. Yes, there's some horrible things in them, but overall, I really like them for this reason, because you will never, ever again in your lifetime see a movie where it's basically like the greatest independent film trilogy of all time. Here's a director that said, this is the movie I want to make, funded it himself, paid $100 million to make what is his glorified vision of this movie. No one fucked with it. No studio told him anything to do. I mean, it's like every filmmaker's wet dream to be able to just do something as crazy as that.
And then the final product revealed why it was a mistake. He needed people there telling him, no, George, that's fucking stupid. What are you doing? It was obviously the interference that made the movies good. Because when he had carte blanche, it was shit. I mean, he wrote set pieces, and it was all about the special effects. It was like, they fight. No, it's trade federations and political bullshit and Jar Jar Binks. It was horrible. It was fucking horrible. All three movies are pretty much horrible. And Hayden Christensen ruins what could have been a good movie in Sith. I think if they'd had a better actor, an older, more seasoned actor in that role, he would have been a much better match for Ewan McGregor, because he's a good actor. I mean, the guy who played Obi-Wan, he was great. If they could have had somebody as good as him as Anakin in the third film, I think it would have been a lot better. But if you've watched that with that thing on YouTube about how they shot that one scene of the fight on the volcano planet.
Yeah,
it was like they were so worried about how the elements were going to match up and how it was going to look that they didn't even give a shit if the characters were good.
If one of the major actors in your film trilogy is Jimmy Smits, there's a problem.
Well, he's okay as Queen Amidala's dad or whatever. I mean, he was okay. But yeah, when he's a bright point, it's a problem.
But he just always reeks TV actor to me, So.
Well, the first thing I ever saw him in was Running Scared with Billy Crystal.
But it's been a long time since then.
It's been a long, long time, and then he went legit and was never interesting again. But whatever. Yeah, he was not the worst thing about that trilogy. Kind of like the robot in Rogue One. He was one of the better things.
Didn't you love the pod racing? Oh, it was so awesome.
And Jake Lloyd, again, he's another one of those kid actors. I feel bad talking shit about him, but maybe it's the dialogue, but it's like, hey, kid, you don't really have to yell every line.
What would have been interesting is, and I mean, I understand what Lucas was trying to do, but let me just jump to this other point here. If episode 1 of the series had been Revenge of the Sith, now that would have been an interesting trilogy. Because then the rest of the series would have been Darth Vader just hunting down Jedis and and all that. Like I think what people wanted to see with Phantom Menace was Revenge of the Sith, that kind of story for the first movie. Yeah. They wanted to see it go down. So.
I agree. That's kind of a mistake because like the first trilogy is Luke's story, but he's a teenager when it starts. He's like 17, 18 years old. So when Darth Vader's trilogy starts, he's like 6. Or 7 or whatever. So yeah, it wasn't the same. By the time you got to Empire Strikes Back, Luke could kick ass. By the time you get to Attack of the Clones, he's a whiny bitch. Sand. I still can't get that shit out of my fucking head. It's into everything. and why a worldly wise woman like that, who's obviously got some money and power, and she's pretty hot. She's going to go for this guy she hasn't seen since he was like 6. And he's a whiny little bitch always crying about, Obi-Wan never lets me do anything. He's not fun. That's sexy, right? That's like, oh, baby, I'm in love with you. Talk that shit again. You won't let me do anything.
Honestly,
sounds like a grandson, huh?
I can speak for the others. You should have starred in those as Anakin.
Well, the other thing is
you should have been the star.
You can see Lucas also like trying to like correct as he's going along. Like for instance, in Phantom Menace, one thing that I remember when it first came out, one thing that everyone complained about was, okay, was that Amidala or was that her doppelganger or body double, whatever? And it goes back and forth, and you're left confused as to who was where and who was what, and da da da. So in the second movie begins, they just blow her up,
Well, I think that right there you stumbled on the whole problem of the prequels. He was making this shit up as he went along. And he was more worried about how it was going to look and the technology behind it. And he was in the CGI room talking about, boy, that looks good. And, story, fuck the story. We'll make that shit up when we get on set. It was not well thought out. And even when he made the first movie, and it wasn't a trilogy. He just kind of talked that shit trying to make more movies. And I don't think he didn't even do a good job of bringing those movies together. I think there's mistakes in the prequels when it comes to the original trilogy. That there's things that don't line up.
Well, like for instance, there's a new book, the Aftermath Star Wars book, Volume 3, that just came out. And people are making a big deal about it because in the book, it tries to do some sort of poem explanation as to why Obi-Wan Kenobi uses the phrase "a certain point of view." So even now they're trying to do revisionist history to explain why he used that phrase, as opposed to just saying, well, what am I supposed to say? Luke, I just met you 5 seconds ago. Your dad's actually still alive. He's Darth Vader, and he's the fucking craziest man in the galaxy. He's not going to tell Luke that in his house.
He needed Luke to go with him.
Right.
So he was being a devious old bastard. He was giving Luke just enough information to get him gung-ho about the mission. And he would reveal it to him later. Sooner or later, he's going to find out. But Obi-Wan's mission was to get to Alderaan. And he was going to do that any way possible. He had Luke... And he was like, well, I'm going to use this kid to accomplish my mission. And, just like in Rogue One, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You got to hurt some feelings. You got to lie to people. You got to kill people in a war. That's what spies do, They pretend to be somebody they're not, and then they kill the target that they're after. It's not personal. It's just war. Well, that way Obi-Wan was like, yeah, I know this kid is because I've been sent here to watch him, right? But he's untrained. And I know sooner or later Darth Vader's going to come looking for him. So if I leave to go to Alderaan, it's probably another thing. If I leave and leave him behind, that might have bad consequences.
Well, that's the other thing about the prequels, though. It's like, why wouldn't Darth Vader think to... I mean, I understand Padme's dead or whatever, but... wouldn't he be looking on Tatooine where he stayed? I mean, that's where his stepdad was.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was watching Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
He's in the building that Luke's eating breakfast in at the beginning of A New Hope, talking to Aunt May and Uncle Owen. He's in the fucking house Luke grows up in.
Aunt May.
Or whatever. I thought it was her name, whatever. Aunt, whatever.
Martha.
I got the uncle's name.
Martha.
It's Martha.
But anyway, he's in the house where Luke grows up.
Yeah.
And it's like, he doesn't think to look there.
Mike, Disney owns all these properties. I guarantee you within 5 years, we're going to have the Star Wars Guardians of the Galaxy crossover.
Oh, Jesus.
I just wish that they would actually hire somebody that gives a shit about this stuff and makes actual good movies that make logical sense, when compared to the source material. It's not that hard. Just go watch a couple of movies. Hey, how are we going to do this Rogue One thing? Well, hey, let's go watch let's go watch the 6 movies, and we'll see what we can come up with. We got the title crawl in the first film. That's our basis for a script. Now, based on what we saw in the first 3 and the last 4 films, how can we make this work? It would have been a lot different than what they did.
Yeah.
And it would have been better. But I don't think they did that, and as a fan, that pisses me off. It's like you can't even be bothered to make sure it matches up. That's like insulting my intelligence. Right. That's why I said it was insultingly stupid and completely unnecessary. Right. Hardly any of the characters in Rogue One were necessary. We just needed to see the lady with the haircut say, "Hey, well, I've got a suicide mission. I need volunteers. I can't order you to do this. We need this done." And then we could have the guys, gals, whoever, toads, who gives a shit? Fuck, man. There's always got to be some kind of controversy. But you have a group of people defined however the fuck you want. Jeez. And then they go in, and maybe they have a confrontation with Darth Vader and maybe even the Emperor. But in Attack of the Clones, it was established that Count Dooku had the plans for the Death Star, and they were completed.
Right.
They were on a planet either they were created by and or being guarded by a group of bug-like creatures in a cave.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we go from that to the father story of Rogue One?
Well,
how does he fit into it?
The only thing I think of is that when she's a kid, that's the
around that time. But what
time.
about Revenge of the Sith though?
Right, because this is supposed to be 30 years or 20 years after Revenge of the Sith. So she's not.
But Luke's only 17 years old, and he's born at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
And it says this takes place 2 days before A New Hope, when Luke is 17. So the timing is off. That's another thing that throws me off. It's like a simple, paying attention to this simple shit it would make it so much easier and make it line up better. And people like me wouldn't have a fucking problem with it. But you actually gave effort. Fucking effort, man. Come on. You're making billions of dollars. You can't be bothered to even give a shit? And you wonder why I'm pissed off. Jeez. Well, people can tell me I don't have a right or a reason to be pissed off, but yeah, fuck yeah, I do. I'm invested in the series. To me, the original film, 8 years old, in my ass in the seat, it was the movie that made me, go, God damn, So yeah, it means something to me. It's like when the original Alien means something to me, and I go see Prometheus shit, and that pisses me off. It's like, what the fuck is going on with this shit? Squid huggers? What the hell? But yeah, so okay, Rogue One is Prometheus bad, in my opinion. Just like Rambo compared it to the Thing prequel. I'm getting so worked up I can't even talk anymore.
The Pring.
I thought you said the Pringle. I was like, Jesus.
I was gonna say the Thing sequel, the prequel.
The prequel.
The Pringle.
Well, speaking of crossovers, the thing is, like, what the hell is Michael Bay doing a Transformers movie where they're fighting Nazis and King Arthur? Paramount owns G.I. Joe, right? Why isn't Michael Bay directing Transformers versus G.I. Joe? That would be the greatest Michael Bay movie of all time. American flags in every shot.
They don't need any more bad ideas, Cameron, man. Shut up.
Man, guys, what's up with this fucking Great Wall movie? I mean,
Dragons.
Got a February release. That's going to bomb.
It already came out. It did not do well,
and it bombed in China too, which was the whole point. Which was because the whole point was we're going to do China productions with an American star, and that will bring in more money in both countries. And they realized no, it doesn't.
Because it's a stupid fucking plot.
Well, yeah, it's like that. The Triple X movie did nothing in the U.S., but it's doing great.
Yeah,
worldwide,
especially in China. Yeah, because they have Donnie Yen, Tony Jaa. Senior model.
Pretty fucking smart.
Yeah. Too bad it's a shitty movie.
Well, that's the other thing about Rogue One is with they're very calculated. They got the white British girls, they have the Spanish actors, they have the Asian actors, so they're hitting every continent to get the money.
And pandering like that is another thing. It's obvious when you watch it, and it really does piss you off. It pisses me off anyway. I just speak for myself. When I see them pandering to the societal whims on a daily basis, it's like, isn't art supposed to be independent of that? Sure, it's a reflection of society, but it's not supposed to program society. I don't get it. I mean, okay, so Rogue One's the first Star Wars movie that has a female listed first in the cast.
True.
Okay. But what's more important to me is whether or not that character was actually entertaining and necessary to the story. If sure, I mean, who gives a shit? If you have a woman as a lead, I don't give a shit, but make it, a good character, make it worthwhile, make me invested in the story. If you're just making it to, a woman's the first lead, yeah, but the story sucks, who gives a shit? I don't know. I see it as detrimental. I mean, I'm an egalitarian. I think we're all equal, and I think it's the best person for the job because that's how you get the highest quality. It's like a football team. At the end of preseason, they have 52 players, right? They start out with like 80 to 90 in preseason, and then they pick who they think is the best players for the regular season, and they give people pink slips like, "Sorry, we got somebody better at your position."
Right.
That's how it works. Because they want to win the Super Bowl. They want to be the best team. So why is that a bad thing? I don't see how that's sexist. I don't see how it's racist. If it's a woman, if it's a black guy, if it's a white guy, who gives a shit? As long as they're the best person for the role and or the job. Yeah, and if we get away from that, then the quality of everything is going to go to shit.
And that's Hollywood.
And that's pretty much where Hollywood is at right now.
Silence.
That's about as political as I'm going to get, so don't worry, I'm not going to go crazy.
My dropped. Even after all that, they're still telling me that one guy's like, you're sexist. Despite all that you said.
Somebody would say it.
Well, it's like Lucas. I mean, in Revenge of the Sith, she says, only a Sith deals in absolutes or whatever, talks in absolutes. And that's what, Bush was saying, stuff like that, about you're either with us or against us. And in Lucas' quote has Anakin say that very line in Revenge of the Sith. So Lucas brought the politics into it too. So.
Well, I was just speaking of casting politics. What's going on your side of the world, because we're on opposite sides of the country right now. Yeah. So, and what and the attitudes on your side of the country are kind of different than the attitudes on my side of the country. But
well, the thing is, California is a big state. It's practically the entire east coast of the United States. So,
and unfortunately, a very small, like with most states, a very small area. Mm-hmm. Pretty much affects everything that goes on in the big area.
Yeah, because you have San Francisco and you have Los Angeles area, and then the rest of the state. Like the majority of California is a Republican state. It's just that there's certain big cities that are huge, and those are the cities that control the newspapers and the media. And so
I was kind of hoping that since we have a Republican in, we were going to have the 80s all over again. Because, when Reagan was in, we had some good movies, we had good music, everything was very entertaining. I unfortunately don't think it's going to go that way. I don't see it. I don't see the joy anymore. I don't see people having fun doing what they're doing. It's a lot more mean-spirited.
No, it's gonna be more Nixon-like, where it's just gonna be all the president's men and Taxi Driver being made.
That's depressing shit. I want happy. I want explosions. I want one-liners. I want Arnold Schwarzenegger. I want the '80s again. Damn it! Don't go emo on me. Come on, bring it back. Come on, let's have some fun.
Well, Arnold's not running The Apprentice, so.
That's a start. But anyway, I look at Hollywood now, and I see the award show speeches. And then I remember Team America World Police and their parody of SAG.
Right.
Of course, they called it FAG, the Film Actors Guild. And it's Alec Baldwin and the same people that you see now on TV saying the same shit. And how did they not know that film was making fun of them? They were parodying their self-righteous bullshit.
And he says, "You are worthless, Alec Baldwin."
Fuck you, Alec Baldwin. I mean, yeah, it's like, how do you not see that you are acting exactly the way as you were portrayed in that puppet movie? But you're like proud of it.
Matt Damon.
It's about right.
He's still incredibly pissed off that because people will still yell that to him when he's walking down the street.
Oh, you bet your ass I would. Oh man, but yeah, so that I don't know. I hope those attitudes kind of chill out a little bit, because it's like, life goes on. Let's just enjoy it. Shit.
I know. It makes me want to jump to one of those 7 planets they just found out about.
That'd be nice, man. But sooner or later, some asshole's going to show it up and fuck it up for everybody, like they always do. 'Cause I contend the only way to achieve world peace is to nuke the planet from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Like, I love the idea of social media, right? I love the fact that, like, if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't have met you guys. I love the fact that you can talk to people from all over. You can tweet to celebrities. You can do all kinds of stuff. But there is a part of me that sometimes just goes, you know what? Fuck all this. We should just go live in a small little town and just be like the old school and just drive to someone's house and knock on their door if you want to hang out with them. And just, I don't know. Sometimes I just think that the internet is going to destroy society as well as bring it together.
What was that Bruce Willis movie? Was it Surrogate?
The Surrogate?
Where you had the robots version of you that actually went out into the real world and you were in some kind of a chamber driving it.
Right.
You never left the house and everybody looked sickly and pale and they had no muscle tone. Yeah, that's kind of what we're turning into. That's kind of like the internet now.
We're gonna be like those fat guys in Up.
Nobody's like, hey man, I'm going over to my buddy's house. We're gonna go do this, and it's like I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna talk to my friends, and then you never leave. You're either in your room or you're at work, or you're in your room, you're at work. I find myself with that syndrome, but I try to make myself at least once a week go out and do something.
I mean, there's a Werner Herzog documentary on Netflix about the internet. It's really interesting. But one of the things they talk about is that the way society is going, that your kids' very well possibly might live in a world where they live in their apartment. They never go outside. They work inside. They don't know anybody like personally. Everything's just online, and that's just the way they live. And I can see it going that way. Like people have no idea how to converse with people in public anymore at all.
Well, yeah, nobody talks on the phone anymore. It's always texting. Yeah. I run into people like that.
That's
Send me a text. I got a fucking phone, you know? I mean, I get more out of a conversation when I hear your vocal inflection, so I know when you're joking, and I know when you're serious, and I know when you're being sarcastic. A text, it's really hard to read the subtleties of a language in the written word like that, especially when they use text speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people can't communicate anymore, and it's really going to become a problem.
Mm-hmm. In the old days, if somebody pissed you off, you just looked them in the face and say, fuck you, buddy, kiss my ass. Now they're going to go burn down a car and do some stupid shit with a picket sign. It's like, we used to just handle our business and move on. If somebody fronted you took care of it.
And if someone didn't like you or something you didn't say, they just kind of went, okay, whatever, and they walked away, whatever. Now people online, I mean, this doesn't happen to me, but I see it around to a lot of people. If someone really is against you, man, they'll find out where you work. They'll try to get you fired. It's like, Jesus Christ. I can see why you are shield your face on the internet.
No, I'm Wilson.
Yeah.
Hey, neighbor. Yeah, the world is not going in a positive direction, and
yeah.
I don't know what can you do. I guess kind of stay optimistic. I mean, there are some positive things like you mentioned, Cameron, but
yeah. Well, things are getting easier and more available. We have a lot more choices than we used to have. There's a lot more things to do than there used to be. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like overkill, though, because I've said this before on The Factory about, when you watched a movie in the old days, you really memorized everything about it because you weren't going to see it again for possibly 2-3 years, and it'd be on TV with commercials and all cut up.
Plus, you had
home video.
Plus, you had to remember it so you could go back to the playground and tell everyone that you saw it and give them all the spoilers.
Yeah, I was one of those kids. I was the movie review kid. Somebody go, hey, Steven, what about this movie? And I'd tell them, the actors and what it was about and run it down to them. And actually, I like Jaws 3. Maybe it's a character flaw, but I actually pissed somebody off because I said I like Jaws 3. They went to see it and they hated it. They never asked me about my opinion of another movie after that.
What I tended to do as a young kid, and I can't believe, I never planned on doing this, just the way it happened. A lot of movies do have flaws or story issues over that. So when I would tell the kids about the movie and what the story was, I always corrected the story and made the plot better and more logical than it really was. And then they'd come back and be like, it was really good, but some of that stuff didn't happen in the movie. And I was like, yeah, I know, because I was correcting it.
No, that wasn't the movie I would have made. That's why you didn't see it.
Yeah, exactly. I always thought that
Star Wars trailers when I get older.
Yeah, no, I always thought that would be a great job too in Hollywood. Instead of writing scripts, just correct people's scripts, just fix them.
Well, Carrie Fisher made a good living being a script doctor.
Yeah, your name is not on the credits of the movie.
No, but your name's on the check.
Your name is on the check, and it's usually like $50,000 starting.
It's usually a pretty good check.
And
and from the conversation we've had so far tonight, we could split that 4 ways and write a better fucking script than what they had for Rogue One.
Mm-hmm. I think it was 5 scripts though. They just stuck them together and didn't check to see if it all fit together.
I wonder if they were paying attention to Suicide Squad, and at one point somebody thought, "Hey, you know what? We're making the same fucking mistakes they made." Maybe, it
Like,
doesn't matter because
fucking-
we're Star Wars. We got butts in the seats no matter what.
Yeah, but
guaranteed.
Suicide Squad is ultimately better because it has good music in it.
Yeah, it is entertaining at least, even though the villain's weak.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like how the fact that they went that way with the villain. I thought that was stupid.
It should have gone against the Joker.
Yeah, definitely. And the Joker should have been a little more classic Joker.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready for the grill and the tattoos. Yeah, we just had Heath Ledger, and they follow, who's quite possibly the best screen Joker. I mean, sure, I like Jack Nicholson. He fits into Tim Burton world really well, but, in the real world more type thing, I think Heath Ledger was a perfect example of a good Joker. And then they follow it up with this guy.
Well, that's because they let David Ayer make it, and he's known for making kind of gangstery kind of things. So that fits.
Yeah, I like a lot of stuff he's done too. But how do you guys feel about Mel Gibson being attached?
If it happens, I'm all for it. If it happens,
he's a great director.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'd kind of be surprised if they actually let him do it because people would probably boycott it or something.
True.
A long time ago, though, Braveheart and various other films, he was a very
he is
well-respected.
Yeah, and he is Warner Brothers' golden boy. I mean, he made them so much money between Lethal Weapon and Maverick and how was it, Conspiracy Theory, all those movies in the 90s and the 80s and stuff. So in a way, he needs to get back with a really big mainstream movie. And if he decides to do it, I mean, think about the way he would portray Joker and Harley Quinn. Holy shit. I don't think he's going to do it because it's so not his style. But
yeah.
But Warner Brothers could not come in and tell him to change stuff. He'd be like Mad Mel, dude, and start flipping tables and shit. So.
Well, Rambo, do you have anything else you wanted to add about Star Wars movies?
About what?
About Star Wars movies we were talking about? I don't know if you had gone into The Force Awakens as much as you may have wanted to.
Oh no, I mean, when
is there
I
anything
talked
left to
about
say
my
besides
channel,
it sucks? It's not quite at the bottom of the list. Like I said, that's the Phantom Menace. But I think one thing.
I'd rather watch the Phantom Menace.
That's okay. That's cool. I choose not
like
to.
Like I was saying, my problem with The Force Awakens is going to sound weird to anybody else. But that's how I am with all my reviews. I hated the direction they went with. I hated the fact that when I saw that movie, I'm like, those three movies, Star Wars, Empire, Jedi, they're pointless. It's like Luke. Well, now he's back on the desert by himself. Everything he did was pointless because now the Empire is 10 times stronger. You have a Death Star 10 times bigger. They destroyed most of the Republic. Everything they did in those three movies was pointless. You got another Vader type. You got another. Oh, you train all these Jedi where they're all dead except one's an asshole and one's probably Rey, I'm sure. And like the next one's called The Last Jedi. I'm like, well, that was a great Return of the Jedi. The Return of the Jedi, and what return? It was one Jedi, it's Luke, and then one bitch and one, just like the original New Hope. I mean, you went all this way just to go back to the beginning. I'm like, you didn't even go for it. You just went backwards to square one, making the three movies pointless, in my opinion. Leia is back to twiddling her thumbs. Han Solo's back to being a pirate again, looking with Chewbacca. I don't like it was like a retcon. Well, they don't know the old films. It's just for a new generation, so we got to just, not a retcon, but reboot it. I don't care for that direction. I could think of 100 ways I would have preferred, other than I thought it was a waste of those classic characters.
I think that's an excuse people use, that it's for a new generation. Because you're continuing with a series of films that started in 1977. But I hear people say it all the time. Well, those, like somebody told me, well, the original Halloween will never go away.
Right.
So the Rob Zombie's film did nothing to diminish, the worth of the original film. But to me, that remake was insulting to the original film because I liked the film. So when you do that, why can't you make a new movie for everybody? Pay attention to what was good about the originals. If you want to throw in some new characters, that's fine, because eventually they're going to have to pass the torch. I don't think Luke's going to be in them forever. He's getting up there.
Well, I mean, in a way they did, because I'm in the minority with Force Awakens. I know that. I can only speak for myself. I can't. Anytime I talk about a movie, I can only speak for myself.
Well,
and
I'm with
for
you
myself, I didn't care for the direction they went with.
I still like it better than Rogue One, but yeah, I'm with you on that.
Well, they refer to Force Awakens and like things like Jurassic World as soft reboots, because people know that if you reboot something like Ghostbusters, people are going to throw a shit fit. So the idea is do a sequel that ties into the real world, but still reboot the franchise with it. And so that's what they did.
Man, after those prequels, I was happy to see anything. Man, it was. Yeah, I mean, it's a halfway decent movie. I mean, it's watchable, and the prequels aren't. So, I'm such a fan of the original 3 movies that, I mean, it was a breath of fresh air, And,
well, I would happen to agree with Jay that the prequels are borderline unwatchable. But so is Rogue One to me. And it's not because of how it looks, it's because for the same reason. I didn't like the midichlorians. I didn't like Jar Jar Binks. I didn't like Qui-Gon Jinn.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I don't like Gary the Stormtrooper as a character. I mean, the guy's fine, but it's stupid, And then you have whatever, and then in Rogue One, it's like, well, what's this person and what purposefully designed? What? So yeah, there's everything that pissed me off about the prequels pissed me off about these new films. Although I will say that The Force Awakens is better than the prequels.
Well, I think maybe at the end of the day, for me personally, Star Wars is one of those things that's like Terminator and Aliens. You only needed 2 or 3 movies, and that's it. And I don't think they benefited, in my opinion, from making more of them.
Yeah, Hollywood seems to be reluctant to make anything but $100 million blockbuster. If they don't make $1 billion with every film, then they haven't succeeded. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you're foregoing creativity because you're just trying to get the buck. And that's what's happened with the reboots.
And they're going to bankrupt themselves pretty fast.
Yeah, and hopefully we get. I'm kind of hoping that certain people do go on strike, because maybe we'll find an underlayer of real talent that'll make interesting and enjoyable films.
They'll just make more movies with Peter Cushing in it.
Yeah, I wonder when John Wayne's new movie's coming out. Maybe him and Charles Bronson can do something together.
Come on, if they made Death Wish 6 with a CGI Charles Bronson, you'd be all over that shit.
If it looked like Tarkin, no.
Maybe Mike can do the voice of Charles Bronson.
All right, you guys have a good night. I gotta go to bed. So
you take it easy, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Not a problem.
Well, have a good one.
I was actually pretty close to the end. I don't have much else to say about Star Wars, but if there's some other stuff you guys want to talk about, feel free.
If Jay wanted to say anything, if he's
see anything new, anything good.
Man, I watched that new Ouija movie, The Origin of Evil.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty cool. It's rare that you get those types of movies that are actually any good, and I like it a lot. And if Pizzow hadn't recommended it, man, I never would have watched it because I hated the first one. So, yeah. That was a pleasant surprise.
I watched a Ouija movie. I don't remember what it was called on Netflix one time, and it was so fucking horrible. I actually couldn't finish it. So that's like sworn me off any movie that has has Ouija in the title.
Yeah, this is actually a Hasbro movie. Like it's a legit name.
Hasbro demonizing their own product. Okay.
Yeah, they did with Battleship and shit. They've done a few other things with their
G.I. Joe.
Huh?
G.I. Joe, yeah.
Yep.
Battleship.
Yeah, I skipped that one. I'm thinking that was a good decision.
Yeah, I mean, the whole beginning is because of like a chicken salad or something. Chicken burrito. A guy breaks into a store to get a chicken burrito, and he gets arrested, and that's our lead guy. And that's how the movie starts. He's trying to impress a girl by stealing a chicken burrito from a gas station.
Wow.
That's how your $100 million movie directed by Peter Berg starts with. Based on a board game called Battleship with aliens in it.
Yeah, what's next? Connect 4?
We're doing the Emoji Movie.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, they actually are doing that.
And there's on, season 3 of Angry Birds by now?
And they canceled a Popeye movie to do that Emoji Movie.
I wonder what happened to Popeye, because I know it was supposed to have been, it had a
They did
release
a
date of
test.
last September.
There's a test on YouTube. They were in the middle of making it, and they canceled it to do the Emoji Movie.
I mean, I gotta see that. I don't know if that would play for modern audiences.
Now, Popeye doesn't play for a lot of audiences. I happen to like the film. I saw it in the theater. I thought it was good.
I think it'd just be cool to see an animated movie just because it's been so long, and I think that'd be more interesting as a viewer to see than about emojis talking. Like Patrick Stewart as a shit emoji.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Patrick Stewart is a poo emoji. So I don't. For anyone out there who comments on this, a Popeye movie that's a fucking Patrick Stewart voicing shit.
Hey, I bet that movie will do well too, because people are fucking stupid.
Hey, you sound like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, because I was going to bring that up too, and I forgot. There's a new Walking Dead shirt out that got some controversy, and it was pulled from shelves because apparently there's something he says is "Eeny meeny miny mo, catch a tiger by the toe." It has, but it says "Eeny meeny miny mo" on the shirt, and it has Lucille the bat. Well, somebody over in England thought that it was racist, so that they complained, and the company that produces the show pulled the shirt, and that was Jeffrey Dean Morgan's response on Twitter was people are stupid. Because they say that it's a racist term that invites violence toward black people.
I mean, I had never heard that until Pulp Fiction. I've always heard, catch a tiger by the toe.
Yeah, that's the saying he used, but there's apparently there's a racist version of it that changes tiger with the N-word.
Right.
And I guess because of some kind of association with that, they complained about the shirt, and then they caved to it and pulled the shirt, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan was kind of like, "What the fuck? It's a shirt. It's something. It's a direct quote from the show." So what the hell? But yeah, that's how stupid it's getting. So I don't really have a whole lot of hope. I mean, for movies coming out, and this year the movies that have already been made prior to this year, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Logan, and Kong. But beyond that, at the end of the year, we got another Star Wars movie and another attempt at a movie by DC. Apparently, this movie's so bad that Affleck's wanting to jump ship. I don't know.
What is it? What's the new DC movie?
There's Wonder Woman in the summer, and then there's Justice League. In October or something.
But he was going to write and direct and star in the Batman. And then he wasn't going to direct it, and he doesn't even want to be in it.
Right.
So it's like, what to look forward to? I mean, the Friday the 13th
we've only
movie.
got like 2 weeks until Kong comes out.
Yeah, a week from tomorrow is Logan, and then a week after that is Kong. Yeah.
I like to see both of those.
Yeah, I think they don't look that bad.
No, it looks like it's finally going to be. My favorite Kong movie is the one from '76. It looks like maybe we might be getting one of that caliber. Maybe even better. That'd be cool. Supposed to tease maybe a Godzilla versus King Kong.
Yeah, that's coming next, I think.
The new Godzilla versus the new King Kong, which, I like the look of the new Godzilla. I thought it wasn't enough of him in the movie, but I liked what I saw.
Yeah, he looked fine.
Well, that's why Kong is so massive, so much bigger than he ever was before, just so it will be comparable to Godzilla.
Right.
Size-wise.
Mhm.
I think Godzilla's bigger in the new film than he's ever been before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least he's not an iguana.
They say he's fat because he's American.
At least he's not an iguana.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fish. I know some people actually like Godzilla 98 more than the new Godzilla film. And if you're one of those people, that's fine.
I'm one of them.
That's fine.
I'm one of them. I'll admit that.
But Iguanazilla and the Jurassic Park babies, I do like the characters better. I mean, I don't mind Matthew Broderick and Hank, Zara? Yeah, they're fine. The characters are fine. Jean Reno? I think it's his name.
Reno.
He's great in the film, and I do like the character, but it's just the creature, to me, was not Godzilla, so it completely took me out of it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's one of those movies, if it was just called a different title, I think more people would like it.
Or just make him Godzilla. I mean, if you're going to make a movie called Godzilla, make it look like God freaking Zilla. I mean, there's plenty of movies to give you a template. If you want to do your spin on it, that's fine, but that's going too far. And that took me out of it. But I liked the Emmerich movies. I mean, I liked some of the stuff he did before that, but I don't know. They didn't nail it for me.
At least I had fun with it. The new one, it was completely boring.
It's like if you took the Godzilla from the new film and put him in Godzilla 98,
yeah,
you'd have a great film. That would be great.
I can see that.
Get rid of the Jurassic Park, Market Square, or whatever. That's stupid.
There's a new Japanese Godzilla film.
It's coming out March 27th on DVD. Shin Godzilla or Godzilla Resurgence. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I've heard good stuff.
It played in Orlando at an art house theater for like a week, and I didn't know it until it was gone. I was like, oh, damn it, I would have went to see that.
I've heard good stuff, so I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be different than any other Godzilla before. But,
hopefully not different stupid.
That seems very serious.
That seems to be the trend. It's different, meaning stupid. Nightmare on Elm Street remake, anybody? Ugh, that was horrible.
Yeah.
I don't think bringing out another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Did I hear something about that? Thought I did.
Yeah, I think they've already. I think there's a trailer out.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Devil's Rejects.
After the last one, do your thing, cuz.
No, that's literally the plot of the new one. It's literally like the Devil's Rejects, where it's him and Leatherface as a teenager and a group of people, and Steven Dorff is pretty much the what's the cop in Devil's Rejects? He was in Out for Justice. William Forsythe. He's pretty much William Forsythe.
Oh wow.
When I heard the premise, I was like, okay, it's kind of like Breakfast Club or something.
Since Chainsaw 2 mimicked the poster, they're just going to go ahead and go with it, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever.
Then they have those pictures of the Predator, the cast, with the little kid that looks like Jubilee from the X-Men cartoon. What the fuck? That's like.
Yeah, it's Shane Black, right?
Yeah.
He seems pretty serious, man. I followed some of the stuff he's put on Twitter, and he's like, it's definitely going to be rated R. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I saw the cast, the ensemble picture. Then you look at the cast from the original. No comparison. There's no. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
they look like the cast from a WB TV show.
Does it? Oh, shit.
I didn't think there was anything particularly interesting about them.
Just reminds you of Predators, except add a little kid with a yellow raincoat.
Yeah, there's a little kid in it, and that's just.
It's, I mean, you got what, Peel? T from Team Peel or Peel? It's one of them. T or Peel.
Jordan Peele or Keegan Michael Key.
Yeah, it's one of them. It's the guy who has the metal hand in Logan. When you see the trailers, that guy's the lead. I guess he's like the bad guy in Logan. He's the star. Couple Olivia Munn, some kid that again, he's got like this yellow coat on, and some two other guys.
God, Olivia Munn. I can't take her seriously in a movie. I remember watching X-Play or Attack of the Show or whatever it was back in the day on G4.
Oh yeah.
And she was one of the co-hosts. I just cannot take her seriously watching her in a movie because I watched her on that show for so long. It's like I know her personality, and it's just like I can't buy her as an actress. Not that she does that. Not that she does a bad job. That. I mean, she was good in Deliver Us from Evil as the cop's wife, and she had definitely played a better wife character than most wives in that situation in a movie would get mad, leave, and take the kids, and then the guy would spiral into alcoholic hell, right? But no, she actually stayed with him and was supportive and was actually a good character. So, but the fact that as soon as she came on screen and entered the room, I'm like, oh shit, it's Olivia Munn. Attack of the Show, anybody?
She was in the recent X-Men movie.
Yep.
She didn't have a lot of speaking lines, or
Psylocke or something like that.
Yeah. Her screen time was pretty much she kept her mouth shut. So.
She can act. Too bad. You know, she can act. It's just that I know her. When you know somebody from something for years and years and years, you know, and then they try to do something different, it's just like you don't see it. You see what you always saw.
Well, she's like the hot gamer girl or whatever, you know. And I mean, I don't even really think she's that hot, but
well, that was her shtick.
You know, nerds are all about it. Oh, she likes games and she's hot. You know, it's like my dream girl. It's I don't know.
That's primarily why she sticks.
There's a lot of that shit on Twitch and stuff, but
I think that's why she sticks to like nerd style roles. You know, she's in movies that she knows nerds will like because that's her audience.
Well, it's definitely made her career.
Yeah, she's living a good life. I don't, have anything against her. It's just hard for me to take her seriously as an actress, and when she pops into a scene, it's just distracting.
And they finally canceled that Friday the 13th movie.
And, you know, we talked about it last year, and I'd never actually expected it to be made. Because it's the same shit over and over and over again. I mean, can Paramount do anything but drop the ball? I mean, they've been horrible. Fuck, I used to go to the movies when I was a kid, and I'd see that Paramount thing, and I would get excited because I knew it was a good movie, and you know, like Paramount and Universal were my two favorite film companies when I was a little kid.
Right.
You know, and of course, New World Pictures and Orion and stuff like that when I got to be a teenager. But you know, when I was a little kid, if it had a Universal logo or a Paramount logo, I knew it was going to be a good movie. And now that's not a seal of quality anymore; it's almost a guarantee of bullshit.
Yeah, that's why I call them pair of pricks.
Can they hire somebody, please, that has their head out of their ass to run that company? Because, you know, when you're more worried about what internet nerds, what photos they're using and what they're saying about the product you've already made, when you're more worried about that than the shit you're putting out in the theaters, then your priorities are fucked.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to say, man. It's just, you've got this property that you're not doing anything with. I mean, why not, you know, take, $10 million and let some director go? And I mean, what's the harm in that? They want to make some huge, big budget movie, and
the last time
it doesn't need to be that way.
The reason for canceling it cost too much, and it was only $20 million.
Yeah,
$20 million was too much of a budget for them.
They said they were afraid there was another movie that had bombed, but it was completely like unrelated to Friday the 13th, but it was an old.
It was the
Rings.
The Rings, that's right, yeah.
And they were afraid. They said they were afraid that Friday the 13th would also suffer the same fate. So they used that excuse that they didn't want to waste their money because they didn't think there was an audience. Well, if you hadn't have waited how long has it been now?
2009 was the last one.
8 years ago? If you hadn't waited 8 fucking years, maybe there would have been an audience. Because we wanted a sequel the next year like they used to do. Oh, okay, now they're going to start the Friday the 13th movies up again. But you can't just drop the ball, as they always do. And to me, I think the proof is the Friday the 13th Blu-ray box set that they took so long coming out with. Right. It's like they released the first 4 movies on Blu-ray and then like abandoned it. And then they come out with the box set. And you open it up, and there's a picture of the chick from the remake.
Really?
If that doesn't signal cluelessness to a diehard fan, I mean, that to me, I opened it up and went, okay. That's why they suck, because they have no fucking clue. Did the guy who put together the graphic items for it, was he familiar with the series? Did the person that designed that box set really think that that's what fans wanted? Well, yeah, it's cool to finally have the movies on Blu-ray, but the tin's okay, but the packaging is just clueless. So after that, I didn't have any hope that they would ever do anything good with the series ever again.
I don't think they care. They know the fans are going to see it. They know they're going to buy it regardless.
You take about $5 million, you rent a summer camp, you shoot a Friday the 13th movie, you put it out in theaters. It makes $12-15 million. You made a profit. You shut the fuck up and go home. That's what they used to be.
Yeah.
And that's what they're not understanding. It's not the money, it's the story. It's paying attention to the characters and paying attention to what made the series popular in the first place. But then, there's a solid question of, does there really need to be any more Friday the 13th films? No. I mean, because we saw how the originals got progressively worse as they went along. I think the first 4 are really good. 5 and 6 are of varying qualities, but I still like. And after that, it's like they dropped off the precipice. Man, 7 was supposed to be Freddy versus Jason, and I think they made a mistake by replacing Freddy with Carrie. And the cast
I like 7 and 8. Yeah, I agree. They're not as good, but I mean,
they're not bad films. The New Blood is actually one of my favorites.
I understand.
I found the uncut version online, someone made of 7, and that was even better because they put the uncut footage back in. They made it look like a VHS tape, so it fits better.
I just kind of, having been more of an old school fan of the original 4,
oh yeah,
I just thought the characters by that point were caricatures. They weren't actually characters. I was like, oh, we have to have the bratty girl. We have to have the girl with self-conscious issues that she's the ugly duckling that becomes the swan. We have to have the stoner. We have to have the athlete. We have to have the emo guy. It's like, is everybody represented? It kind of felt generic in that way. And of course the gutted gore didn't help.
No, that didn't help. I mean, and I'm one of the only people on Earth that love Jason Goes to Hell.
And the ending, where she brings her father back from the dead to wrap a chain around Jason's throat to drag him back down into the water
that was
as a way to defeat Jason was a bad idea. I think it was just as bad as, like, how did Jason's mom put her head back on to grab Chris when she's in the canoe next to the house?
Or how did she know there was a mom?
How did she know there was a mom, and what was she doing in that pond, which is obviously not anywhere near the camp?
Yeah, I mean, you can say that with all of them. Even the original. I mean, do I really believe a 60-year-old woman was jumping around and throwing people through windows like she's a football star? And,
it's funny because the first time the reveal, I was like, what? It's like, what, my grandmother is the killer?
She's a strong woman. She threw that one woman through the window like she was a football.
Now, I do realize
she got strength.
That some people that suffer from certain things have enhanced strength. Maybe she had enhanced strength. She was psycho. I don't know.
Even to lift, like the one guy...
tied him in the tree or whatever?
like on the door and put arrows in him, like he's like 3 feet off the ground. If she's psycho, she got like steroid psycho. Like,
and how did a kid that drowned like 30 years ago come back and put a tater sack on his head to kill people in part 2 to revenge his mom? Yeah. Oh yeah, completely understand.
She is definitely weird. She does have hairy, fingers at the end when her head's cut off. That's because it was tough to be.
I mean, again,
hairy knuckles.
But I mean, they're all silly fun. I
still like those movies, though. I mean, it's not like
exactly.
Yeah, I can admit to those movies have flaws that are equal to the flaws of some of the later films, but maybe it's an atmosphere or a feeling or the way it was shot that sets it apart. Because one of the things I like about part 2 is the cinematography. I really like some of the shots that they got, and you could tell they were really trying to make a well-made movie, even though it was Friday the 13th Part 2. I don't get that as much from like Part 8.
Well, that's why I honestly love Jason Goes to Hell, because I do think it's a well-made movie. Yeah, there's no Jason in it, but there's no Jason in the first one either. And technically not in part 5 either, just a guy.
The Jason worm that has to go up into his dead sister's hoo-hoo to be born again as what he looked like before they blew his head off.
None of it made sense, like you said, with all the other movies.
Exactly.
To me, it's like, hey, they did a sequel to The Hidden, but it's actually good. And
I think really,
I like the lead guy too. Right?
Part 3 maybe has the most, except for the mom jumping out of the water, but how she actually puts the axe in Jason's face and survives. To me, it's more one of the better ones, I guess, as far as how they confront Jason. It's not a dead dad with a chain wrapped around his neck pulling him down into the water. It's not a 50-year-old woman. It's not somebody that drowned in a tater sack. But it has its problems. But yeah, you could pick out flaws. And well, I think maybe the first Halloween might be hard for me to pick out some flaws. But part 2 I can definitely tear apart. There's some scenes in part 3 I could tear apart. 4 and 5 I could really tear apart. So
well, even the original, if you ever go that route, I mean, like the sister, she has the quickest sex ever when she took her boyfriend out.
I could get nitpicky in a few areas, yeah.
Or
yeah.
But I mean, it's like if you like the film, you just don't care. And like all the films we talk about, I enjoy. It's when I hate the film that I bash everything because fuck it, I don't like it. I'm not going to go easy. But like all the films we talk, like every Friday the 13th film I can watch. Like part 8 is my least favorite, but I can watch it as background noise. Cause even though I'm like, I don't think New York has toxic waste every night in the sewers. I mean,
and how is toxic waste going to turn you back into a 10-year-old?
I don't know. Maybe it's like the Toxic Avenger, like
reverse. Toxic Avenger in reverse. Okay.
Maybe they talked with Lloyd Kaufman and gave him
turns
some
a normal
advice.
person into a mutant and a mutant into a normal person. That makes perfect sense.
I've never had toxic waste. I can't deny or confirm.
But I guess it all depends on what was your first Friday the 13th film.
Okay, yeah. My first one was Jason Goes to Hell. That really was my honest scene, the unrated cut. So that's a reason too.
And it probably same for me. My first was 3. I saw that in the theater. That was my first one I saw, and then I caught the rest on VHS later. But so I'm coming from the originals, and it felt like they got progressively cartoonier, especially 5. To me, 5 it's fun, but it's a comedy. It's like a cartoon, and then 6 was like a Frankenstein movie, but it was fun, but kind of cheesy. I really enjoyed 6. And then by the time we got to 7, then it kind of seemed kind of gimmicky and really cartoony. The characters were very, very, overwritten in a way, and uninteresting. I don't know. You had like I said, the character tropes and what. And then Jason Goes to Hell was just, I didn't like it until I saw the uncut version. Because I thought, I had seen The Hidden. I liked The Hidden. And I thought, somebody who saw The Hidden one too many times made a Friday the 13th movie, and Sean Cunningham thought it was a good idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, the strangest thing about that is those guys are like really huge fans of the franchise, and there's all sorts of little Easter eggs in there with
Yeah.
the book from Evil Dead is in there, and I mean, it should have been a better movie than it is. I really just think they were trying to do too much, in one movie, and I don't know how much, studio interference had to do with the finished product and everything else, but
Well, not having Jason in a Jason movie is kind of a mistake. The title is Jason Goes to Hell. Most of the film, it's either an actor pretending like he's possessed by Jason or he's a worm. Some kind of
At the same
demonic worm.
time, people like Part 5, and that's not Jason.
Yeah, it suffers from the same thing, but like I
Or
said,
the
Part
first
5 is more of
one.
a comedy to me. And there are some things about Jason Goes to Hell, like the couple that runs the diner. They remind me of Ethel and Junior. So
Right.
that's some funny stuff. But as far as and I do like Stephen Williams. Is that him? The Jason Hunter guy
Oh, yeah.
that's breaking the dude's fingers and
Duke.
Yeah, I like that character. But to me, he just kind of, I don't know, shows how goofy it is. But
I like the lead
I like it
guy.
better now than I used to like it. When I first saw it, I thought it was shit. I really did. I thought it was. This is what they come up with. I was thinking Part 8 was bad, and Paramount had run out of ideas. And then when New Line Cinema's first foray into the Friday the 13th, it's not Jason versus Freddy. You'd think that would be the perfect thing, right?
Yeah,
Because now they own both.
Yeah, they've been trying for years. Even after that, they wanted to do that.
I mean,
And
that
they
should
just
have been the
come up with
film.
a
That was the
script.
film everybody wanted to see. And instead, we get Worm Jason being drugged to hell by Freddy as a teaser for a film that didn't come along until, God, how many, 7, 8 years? We had to wait for. We got Jason X in between.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, I think Jason X is a pretty bad movie too.
It's not great.
I enjoy it.
I like the concept of it. I understand that Todd Farmer was going for like an alien type feel, which is fine. Some of the characters are amusing. It's not great. I mean, I like it personally better than Jason Goes to Hell, but not like a bunch.
I mean, for a Friday 13 Part 10, considering all the stuff they've done, I mean, when you get to a Part 10, I'm fine when you're doing stuff like that. I had fun with it. Maybe because growing up, I never thought of any of the Friday 13s as serious. They're all romps. I mean, even the first one, I mean, I like them as romps. So, like Halloween I probably took more seriously.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I could deal with it's Jason X. Okay, some fun kills and sense of humor. I'm down with this. In space, sure, why not?
Yeah. Let's see what Halloween 4 was. What, 88?
Yes,
And that would have been what, Friday 7?
yes, because 89 was Part 8, so that would have been Part 7, The New Blood.
It's as much as I love Halloween, the original.
Yeah.
I can't say that Part 4 is better than Friday 7. I think they really made some mistakes with Michael Myers. The mask is horrible. The whole Jamie thing, I don't know. We watched Part 4 and did
Oh yeah, you mentioned that on the
yeah,
comic.
so yeah, I'm going to have to say that Friday probably has the stronger. We did the Friday versus Nightmare. It'd be kind of nice to do it versus Halloween. But
So how do you feel about this new Halloween? I mean, we touched on it before, but you don't feel
well, no.
Since they said it's going to be a Halloween 3 after 2, that's what they're doing.
Nothing against John Carpenter. I mean, he's made a lot of films. He was my favorite director in the 70s and 80s. And I understand he feels kind of screwed over because of the thing, so he still has a chip on his shoulder. So he likes the checks. I got no problem with him getting a paycheck.
Right.
Sure.
I just would like to see that on the screen, because he got a paycheck for the Fog remake. I don't want it to be that. See, I'm a little hesitant. Just because he's involved doesn't necessarily make me go, oh, it's going to be quality. Because I remember.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then the guys that are involved, Danny McBride and the guy who directed Pineapple Express, is that it?
Yeah.
That doesn't scream Halloween to me. Are we going to get a Friday 5 out of this? Where it's going to be tits and dick jokes? I don't know. I have a lot of reservations about it. I'll go see it. I mean, it comes out on my birthday in 2018, so I'll go see it. But
man, until that damn thing's in the can, I'm just going to pretend it's not even happening. Yeah.
It's like it was announced that Disney's supposed to re-release the original Star Wars films unaltered. Yeah, believe it when I see it. Just like the Friday the 13th movie that got canceled. So,
Yeah.
first of all, I don't think it's actually going to happen. Second of all, I don't have any hope for it being great.
Okay.
I don't. There's nobody involved in it that makes me go, oh, yeah. I mean, nothing against Danny McBride. I think he's funny. We talked about Your Highness and Tropic Thunder and some other shit he's been in. I think he's a funny guy. I just don't understand comedian and horror. Why is he the best guy to be involved? I mean, I want to hear the pitch they supposedly gave Carpenter that sold him on it. And I hope the pitch wasn't, if you do this, your check will be bigger than ever. That was the best pitch I ever heard. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I just hope they make it, And I'm sure it'll be serious and telling. It won't be like, shit like that.
Yeah, well, I guess if you know who Freddie Prinze was, he was a comedian in the 70s. Comedians like, Robin Williams, they tend to be dark people. And how they compensate is by being funny and making people laugh. So maybe we can hope there's a dark side in these guys that's going to make a good movie.
Well, I mean, you mentioned before, like, when we're talking about Friday the 13th, does the world need any more Friday the 13th films? I don't, I don't think the world needs any more Halloween films.
And I agree with that too.
I don't know what does Jay feel about that? Any of it, really. You're breaking up.
I think it would be a lot easier to make a Friday the 13th film decent.
Okay.
I don't know. I've just always thought of, Halloween being more of a serious franchise. Not as comical and, you could watch.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you there?
Still there?
I think you froze.
If you can hear us, your Google messed with you and we can't hear you.
I was going to say, it's supposed to take place after Halloween 2 and be the new Halloween 3 in the original timeline, right?
A remake of H2O? H4O?
Is he going to have both of his eyeballs blown out and be burnt beyond recognition? Because at the end of 2, Mr. Sandman's playing as his corpse is reduced to ash. That was pretty much the definitive end. I personally think Halloween 2 was the last good one, really, to me. And it has flaws. I watched it recently this past Halloween, and it had been a while since I watched it. And I did find it a bit cheesier than I remembered, and it's not quite as good as the original, but it's a good sequel.
Yeah.
But, Halloween 3, I think, is a good film, and I wish they would have gone with the anthology yearly thing instead, but yeah, it could have been good. But they should have called it something else. Calling it Halloween 3 was what killed it.
So you think it's a mistake for them to go with the sequel to Halloween 2?
Well, how are they gonna? He had his eyeballs blown out and he was burned beyond recognition.
Like they did with Halloween 4. How'd they explain that?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Is that what we're going to get? We're going to get a fucked up version of something we already had? Because Halloween 4, just gloss over the fact that there was a 3 and it took place after 2?
Yeah,
This is something that's already happened.
yeah.
Is it going to be the supernatural element going to be reinstated, or are we going to go back to the scientific angle of the zombie films, that it's all explained away by environment and behavioral studies?
Honestly, I think they're just going to remake the first one, but call it a sequel.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think that's what they're doing because that's what a lot of people do
That's
nowadays.
that's really getting old, man. I mean that was old 10 years ago, but it's
Which
beyond
one?
old.
What's
Just
that?
like you said, just doing another remake, like doing another origin story, and just
how
do
are
a
they going to handle?
sequel.
Because we had H2O that dealt with Laurie Strode. Is Laurie Strode going to be a part of this movie? Was her character going to be involved? She was a big part of 1 and 2, and she was established as Michael's sister, and she survived part 2. So if it's a sequel to 2, how are they going to get around the fact that she's still alive?
Like Halloween 4, they just go, she died in a car crash.
Lazy, lazy bullshit. That's how they're probably going to. And I don't know. It's because of the previous sequels. And are they going to go with the Thorn trilogy? They're going to go with Busta Rhymes? Are they going to go with H2O? Which bad idea are they going to take? Are they going to follow up on?
I think you're just going to have a different set of characters that Michael Myers kills one by one with a knife. And it is a sequel, but they're just going to redo the first movie. Kind of like, I mean, whether people like or dislike them, The Force Awakens, Jurassic World, all these sequels that, in my opinion, all they do is just kind of redo the first movie. And that's a hit thing they do a lot. Ghostbusters. Well, that's not a sequel, but it's.
I haven't seen
Oh,
that.
that's one thing they do a lot is that they'll make a sequel, but they really take a lot of things from the original film. So technically, it's a sequel, but it's nostalgia. Hey, you remember this from the first one? Well, here's a similar scene like that. They do that a lot. That's what I'm tired of.
Yeah, I want something new. I mean, I saw Death Race 2050. I talked about that a little bit on the Factory, I think, on the last show. I really enjoyed that film. I think, the first film is really, really goofy, so you're not going to make a serious follow-up to it like the Statham films. I mean, those were not true to the source material, in my opinion. This is goofy, it's silly, it's over the top, it's got all the stuff that I would want in a Death Race film. So I don't know. It can be done, but you have to pay attention to the source material and what made it popular in the first place. Not what you think modern audiences want to see. Because that's where I think the problem is. They're trying to cater. It's like they think there's a different language involved. Like, oh, we can't do something like they did because the language has changed or something.
Yeah, but
go back to what made it good. Go back to what made it popular and try to do it.
But also, it's going to be really, really tough because we've had 10 Halloween films, technically. So if they do something similar where it's Michael killing people one by one, for a good reason, we're going to say, well, that's too much like Halloween or Halloween 2. And if they do something really different, then they could very easily go into the Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, where you're like, what the fuck are you doing? This is fucking stupid. And it's like, what do you do? I mean, you either going to go very similar or you're going to go very different. And it's very easy to do both of those horribly. Very easily. So what do you do?
I mean, especially after in part 2, it established that he was after his sister.
Yeah.
He killed his first sister in the first movie, went after his second sister in the second movie, then he went after his niece in 4, 5, and 6, right?
Yeah.
Then he was back after his sister again.
Because H2O was supposed to be Halloween 3. That's what I mean. It sounds like they're just redoing H2O, but without Jamie Lee Curtis. That they're going to do a Halloween 3.
The whole hook that was established in 2 is that he chases down his family members. Right?
Yeah.
what are they going to create a new family member for this film? Is it going to be in a different town? I mean, how can you have it in Haddonfield where the Strodes are and not have them involved? Are they going to recast a young Laurie Strode and try to bring that character into it? I mean, areas that could be horrible if they do that.
It seemed like when they say that it takes place after Halloween 2, I can only imagine they'll just be like, they'll reference the first film many times. So that did happen because they don't want the heat from Ghostbusters, because there were some people who were like, why can't this be a sequel? Why did you say none of it happened? Some people were like, why didn't you just make it Ghostbusters 3 and be in the same universe? Or it's like, well, we want to avoid that hate. So let's say it's a sequel, and 40 years ago this happened, which would be funny because that means Michael Myers is like 60 years old. He's a 70-year-old guy like walking around.
Yeah, see, how old would he be? He was.
Or they're going to do like Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Holy shit! Yeah, he would be 58 years old.
Or they'll do Texas.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah, Myers would be 58 years old right now if he were real.
Or they'll do Texas Chainsaw 3D where it takes place in the 70s, but it was only 20 years later. You remember that? Or did you see Texas Chainsaw 3D?
Yeah.
Where it showed the beginning from the first film in the 70s.
Right,
and then a little baby. And then it's like modern day, but she's only 20 years old.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about where she was like, do your thing, cuz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they think either the original took place in the 90s, or she ages really weirdly.
And to bring it kind of around to our Star Wars discussion, that's what I was bitching about with that timeline, where they just kind of make shit up as they go along and expect us to fucking buy it. It's like, we can do math. We know when the original was made, and we know that if she was born here, then she would be this age and not that age. I don't know.
Do your thing, cuz. I'd forgotten about that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teams up with Leatherface, yeah.
Still better than the remake.
Nah, I'd rather watch the remake.
Is that the one with Jessica Biel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind the remake with Arlie Ermy. I thought for a remake, I've seen much worse, like The Hitcher, The Fog.
Yeah, I didn't understand.
I mean, it didn't need to be made, no, but I don't think it's a bad movie. I mean, unlike Texas Chainsaw 3D, where the fucking cop lets a fucking serial killer walk because some 20-year-old is going to take care of him.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the worst fucking sheriff in history. What the? Or the girl got crazy because, wait, I'm his cousin? Okay, he killed all my friends, but okay, now I'm psycho.
I don't know. I think the remake kind of lost me because of the inclusion of the cop character. The first film was a story about the brothers. You had the hitchhiker, you had Leatherface, and then you had the guy that ran the show, ran the barbecue pit. He was the spokesman, and their relationship. See what your brother did to the door? You know, it was their relationship really that kind of drove that family. And I thought that, bringing in a new character, you're remaking it. I mean, you already had good characters there. Why did you need to bring in a new guy? I mean, no offense to Arlie Ermy, he's great, and he's good in the movie, but they kind of reimagined
I think him and Jessica Biel's ass are the best parts of that movie. I mean, the rest of it,
no arguments there.
But real quick, something interesting. I was talking about that Ouija movie. Ouija Part 2. I think that's a Platinum Dunes movie, and that's the only Platinum Dunes movie that has a certified fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So
wow.
I feel like I can't trust Rotten Tomatoes anymore. It's almost like they've become Siskel and Ebert. If they say it's bad, I usually end up liking it.
Yeah, I don't put any stock in it either, but it's just I just thought that was kind of interesting.
But it's pretty funny that they would give that movie fresh.
Huh.
Because Rotten Tomatoes
the only one.
turned into the company that trips over their feet to jerk off to shit like Rogue One.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's critics that they're basing it on. It's not.
Right, it's not one
IMDb,
person.
That's anybody can go rate on IMDb, which is why I trust that a little bit more.
Same thing with really any critic. Like if it's fresh, they'll count it up, and if it gets more positive, it's fresh.
Yeah. As with like a lot of these horror websites and horror, Dread Central and some of these other things, you really can't take whatever they say they want to, some line to put on the DVD box, but
bloody disgusting.
Yeah, exactly. They have been known to take some perks, along the way to.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah.
Wow. I heard about the Blair Witch thing.
Well, I mean, they go and they take these guys out and they wine them and dine them and 69 them and, and then they, they give them this movie's bloody awesome, or just some stupid ass, quote to put on the box, or what is it? Shock till you drop, or there's a few other ones like that. I don't ever put any stock in what they have to say.
Nope. I can go back. Siskel and Ebert, SiskelandEbert.org. It's like this. Somebody has cataloged a shitload of their old shows.
Yeah.
And I'll sit back and I'll watch stuff from the 80s and I'll be just like, holy shit, I could not disagree with you assholes any more than I do. Because I always used to think that Siskel was the pompous-ass art film critic, that hated anything that was made for the peasants. No, that's made for the peasants. That's not true art. And I always thought Ebert was like the everyman. But then I go back and watch it, and I end up agreeing with Siskel more than I do Ebert. Ebert gets this. He was like an SJW in the 80s. And I never really realized how much he was like that. And I go back and watch it. I was just like, could he have possibly been more wrong about that point? His review of Friday 4 just cracks me up.
Oh, man. Well, what did he say about it?
That this movie tells teenagers that life is not worth living, so why bother, because you're only going to die anyway. It paints a bleak portrait of your future, and it's all about killing and being brutal to women. This movie hates women.
They're all about that.
Yeah, but they went off on that shit. It's like, I don't think they really understood that. I thought those films were empowering to women because they were the survivors. They were the ones that outsmarted the killer. The strong Ripley style. I always thought that was but to hear it now, Rogue One's the first movie that showed a female in a what? Did you see Aliens? I don't get
watching those two guys fight on the some of the outtakes is some of the funniest shit you'll ever see.
Oh man, when Siskel was drunk, it was hilarious. He would bag on Ebert about how much he would eat at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Just give me everything in a Coke. Oh, it was just hilarious, man.
Even still, man, I pretty much disagree with virtually everything they ever had to say about movies, but it is still fun to go back and watch some of those.
There was an occasion when I guess when Ebert was in a good mood, and he just liked to fuck with Gene. So he would take the opposing position, I think, just to piss him off. Yeah. But I think this is a real entertainment, Gene. I think you're overthinking it. Well, that is the movie you wanted to see. Isn't the movie they make? Isn't the movie they made? So I guess that's just tough, just to get Gene pissed off. Oh, it's funny. The good old days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're pretty much responsible for why I wanted to do this exact thing, why I wanted to talk about film, because I did disagree with them so much,
Yeah, exactly. I grew up watching, sneak previews on PBS because I lived, about 50 miles outside of Chicago. So I grew up with those guys. I was there before it was at the movies. It was sneak previews. And I remember when they went national and they became at the movies.
Wow.
Yeah, I was there from the beginning, and they were like local Chicago celebrities. He worked at the Sun Times, and then Cisco was at the Chicago Tribune, and they were like local guys. So I got to see them grow into what they became, and so yeah, that was a big influence on me because I loved movies, and I'd try to talk to people about movies, and they didn't give a shit, and it was hard to find people that had the same interests that you had in films that would actually want to talk about them. So I would watch those guys, and yeah, it made me, and I got a chance to jump into the movie area of YouTube. I was like, hey, I got to, just like you, I got to do that.
Yeah, I know. I always wanted to do movie reviews in my high school paper, and I didn't get it. I was able to review music, but I always wanted to do the movies, and I had I saved my ticket stubs to the movies, which I still do. I have hundreds of these damn things. That was kind of my audition. I brought that in there. I'm like, look, this is all the movies I watched, and it wasn't good enough.
I've kind of got a similar collection, only mine are concert tickets.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you can see all the. I have dating back to the 80s.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
I've got a lot of my Pantera and Gwar and AC/DC and Slayer and all that shit from the good old days.
That's cool.
Metallica, Guns N' Roses. So I saved my concert stubs. And I also I used to have a bigger pick collection because I would go to the shows and then the guitar players would throw their picks out into the crowd. I used to have 2 Dimebag Darrell picks, but I only have 1 now. But it's from a Vulgar Display of Power tour, and on the back of the pick it still says Diamond Darrell. It was before he switched to Dimebag.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
So I have that pick. I used to have one from his Far Beyond Driven tour that actually said Dimebag on it, and it had like burn marks in it to make it grippy. And I have I have a Johnny Ramone pick that I got from a Ramones concert. So and that's great. So he's dead now.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice memento. So I used to have a lot more picks. I think I have a Wednesday 13 pick and a couple other ones, but I lost most of them. Most of them didn't make it home.
Frame those or something.
They're not worth anything, so I wouldn't even try to sell them. Because it's really unless you're standing there, have a picture of you standing next to the guy and him handing it to you. It's not really worth anything, but I wouldn't sell it anyway.
Yeah,
the memory of it is more important.
If you could prove it, it probably is worth something. But
Dimebag's dead, Ramone's dead. It's like memories.
It's awesome, man. Vulgar Display is my favorite album of theirs. So.
Oh, mine too. Man, I had heard Cowboys from Hell. A friend of mine hit me to it, and I liked it. But then when I heard Vulgar, though, I was just like, "That is the shit." That whole record is awesome, and they were firing on all cylinders at that time. Because
Cowboys from Hell, they were still trying to hit those high notes.
He was still doing his Rob Halford impersonation. Cemetery Gates, yeah.
And Psycho Holiday, I think he does it a lot on that one.
Yeah, they were still in transition period. When they hit Vulgar, that was them.
Mm-hmm.
And it just exploded. I mean, the whole fucking Hostile, New Level.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Mouth for War. Good shit. Yeah,
the good old days.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Well, guys, we've been going at this for a while. That's cool with me. But I've kind of run out of shit to say for tonight. We'll definitely be doing this again sometime. And, Jay, thank you very much for the help getting this shit going. Because that shit was confusing. I mean, if you just click live stream, it takes you to the encoder. And it's like, you have to have an off-site encoder. And then you have to take this code. And then you put it into the off-site encoder. And then you broadcast on your YouTube channel from a different place. Like OBS, something about broadcast thing, and it was only a single thing, and I was like, how the fuck, where's Google Hangouts at, you know, because it used to be more prevalent.
Yeah.
Well, then when you told me, I went in and I chose a different thing, and it took me right to it, so.
Yeah, that shit's all over my head, man.
So
I just go with the easiest option available.
Well, it would be nice if it was easy to find. It's like, did you guys write the script for Rogue One? Fucking idiots. It shouldn't be that difficult. But anyway, cool. It was awesome. I do look forward to doing this again. It won't be a weekly thing because I'm loyal to the factory. You know, that's my number one. But every once in a while, I'll advertise it next time. This time we had so many technical difficulties that I didn't want to advertise it for a specific time and then not have it happen. But next time I will, now that we know it works. I'll give a heads up a couple days in advance that it's going to happen. And of course, anybody from the factory is welcome to join us. That'd be cool.
Yeah, man. Thanks for letting me come on.
No problem, dude. You guys are always welcome. I'm not trying to steal anybody's thunder. You know, I don't want anybody to, think that. Everybody's welcome. It's a lot of fun, and sometimes on a 9-panel, when you have 9 people on a panel, you don't always get, unless you just want to be a rude bastard and constantly talk over everybody, you're not going to get all your points in, and it's a little bit more of a wait and let other people talk, and this way is a little more immediate. You can just, that's why I call it what the fuck, because it's what the fuck ever we want to do.
Right.
Like tonight we did want to talk about the shittiness of the new Star Wars films and how I think they missed the mark and why they were shitty and why we didn't like them. If other people like them, that's fine, but I just thought that we would put out our 2 cents on it. Next time, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We had a couple of things we thought about, but no matter what it is, I'm sure it'll be fun. It'll be a good time.
I'm sure we'll piss people off. So.
Always.
I always do that. I hate everything.
I don't give a fuck, I just don't. I've reached the age where I don't care. Oh, so-and-so from so-and-so doesn't like you. And I'm supposed to give a shit why. You don't know me, You don't know shit about me. You see something on and you make up your mind about something. That's fine, whatever. That's what you want to do. That's great. But in the words of Phil Anselmo, walk on home, boy. Anyway, is there any parting things you guys like to say before we end it tonight?
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, hey, no problem, man.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, cool. If there's nothing else you guys want to talk about, I'll go ahead and end it, and we can do this again sometime.
Very cool.
Yeah, that sounds good, man.
Cool. Well, hey, to everybody that tuned in, hope you had a good time, and we'll see you next time. Later.